Yo, what is going on, Papa Fam? Welcome back to episode 18 of the Code With Me the Right Way with AI series. Today we're building a flight tracker app, which is so exciting because we've never actually done a flight tracker app on the app. No, not flight tracker, but literally a flight booking app. What am I saying? It's a full flight booking system. So if that sounds good, we have loads of cool AI goodies and things that you're going to learn about. So go ahead, smash that like button. Let me know where you're watching from right now. The chat is already popping off. And without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and dive into an entire demo. Now, this is going to cover so much today. All of the AI tricks and tips that I know today, and I've been doing for months, as well as a full next.js app, Sanity backend, all of it in the mix. We have authentication, we have billing. Every single corner of this app is covered. Go ahead and smash that like button. Let's dive into a demo. As soon as that beat drops, let me know where you're watching from right now in the chat. Blow it up. All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's go ahead and get it, guys. Here we have the demo. Boom. On the left hand side, we have the actual app. On the right hand side, we have the studio, right, which is the CMS backend, effectively the platform. Now, there is so much that goes into building a flight booking app. I don't think you understand. Let's go ahead and dive through the first part, which is effectively what is on the surface. Okay, because this is going to be what most people expect when they see a flight booking app. All right, firstly, really nice kind of, little UI, a few little gimmicky tricks here. And then we've got the actual flight booking. Okay, so in this case, I've got a few flights. I can book London to, let's say, Dubai. I want to go ahead and leave these dates. Maybe I'll change the date a little bit. And I want to do business class, right? I'm going to go ahead and search for a flight. And by the way, I can do one way or a round trip. Okay, let's go ahead and click on search flights. And boom, I have my flights. Right now, in this case, I can also compare cabins. So I can actually see the different prices from each. I can go back and forth. So it actually looks like it's cheaper for me to fly on Monday. So I'm going to go ahead and book that flight. And then for the return flight, you can see here, I'm going to go ahead and book the Thursday because it comes out cheaper as well. Let's go ahead and select that. Then the next step is to choose the seats. And the seats, we have a full plane layout, right? We've got the business class economy. But of course, because my tickets are business, we're going to go ahead and book the front left. And then over this side, we're going to book maybe over here, right? And by the way, these get booked out. So if these seats are locked, so basically when I go to the next step, it will lock this booking, then I will see these actually booked out. Okay, so if someone's booked them, whatever the case, it supports everything. Let's go ahead and continue to check out. And now we hold the seats and it creates a confirmation page. And then we check our details. Here's our itinerary. We're very happy with this, right? We even got a pro seat discount. I'll run over what that is in a moment. And then, for example, I'm going to be flying. So right now I am Elon Musk. And then we've got a dummy payment here, right? So in this case, I've done payments tons of times before in builds. I'm going to go ahead and do just dummies for this one. So the payment, we're going to go ahead and approve the payment and issue our ticket, right? So give it a second. And you can see trip is confirmed. Let's go ahead and see, is our trip actually booked? And there we have it, London to Dubai round trip. Perfect stuff, right? We've got the 3A, 5F. That's great. And I've also got all my previous tickets down here below. Now it gets even better than that, right? Firstly, if you're, in the admin side of things, all of the bookings themselves, or actually all the flights themselves, can go ahead and get handled inside of the live schedule. So this is where the operation team will come in. So I'm going to teach you how to build all of this today. So you've got the schedule source key, flight number, the origin and destination. These are referenced fields. So we have rich documents here, right? We even have, for example, if we go down here, we've got the fare policy, and we even have aircraft template, which means you can actually customize those seats that we saw originally, right? So in this case, we've got the layouts. We've even got the cabin sections, first class, business, and economy. And if we were to click in one of those, even that has its own referenced field, right? And here you can see the seat configuration as well as the seats themselves, right? So it really gets quite deep here. Now, when those seats were actually booked, let's go ahead and see what happens, right? Firstly, we've got airports, aircraft templates, cabin products, and fare policies. And then we've got the concierge. And then we've got protected system records. And this is going to be, read-only access for agents or APIs. And if we go into here now, let's go ahead and see the actual booking. And we can see here we have some held bookings, and then we have the tickets. So remember, a held booking is when you go ahead and hold a booking for 10 minutes, and the ticket is the actual booked ticket, right? So in this case, 21st of August, let's go ahead and see, is this the ticket that we just booked? I believe it is. Yep, 3A, and there we go. Right? And then we can see the actual amounts, everything in the mix as well. Everything is saved. Perfect stuff. And you even got prices locked and quoted at prices. Amazing stuff, right? So that is actually handled really nicely. And it gets even better, guys, because you guys thought I was done there. No. We have clerk handling all the authentications. We have full login and account management. We even have clerk billing to handle all of our subscriptions. Now, you're probably wondering, what is a subscription for here? Well, if you become a pro member of Aerodesk, our dummy website, right? Shout out to a real Aerodesk if it's out there. This is educational content. This is purely made up, right? So I'm not trying to hit on anyone. But here we have an AI flight concierge, which is an agent that can help us book everything that we just did, as well as 20% off seat fees, okay? So I'm going to show you how you can gate features like this. And then, of course, you guys saw here, Sanity is powering the back end, right? And Sanity have something called Sanity Context. And this is where things get pretty crazy, guys, okay? So I'm already a pro member. I've upgraded this account. I'm going to click on Flight Concierge, right? So let's go back to the homepage for a sec. Flight Concierge. Now, from here, I can talk to this agent about anything and it can do so much. And really, I want you to think about something for a second. Did you see the structure and the schema and how complicated things can get, right? We've got different seats, different classes, tickets, bookings, holds, all of that stuff in the mix. How can we get an agent to truly understand that? Quite simply, right? And not have to worry about embeddings, all this other stuff. I just want to be able to update data in the back end and then talk to my agent. And I want to be able to update that information really quickly if I need to, do any of that stuff in the mix, right? So firstly, let's go ahead and ask, if I want to, have a change or a refund, I can ask questions like that. And the agent can go ahead and answer the typical customer support questions, okay? But sometimes we want to go a little bit more, in depth and actually get some actual use done, right? So in this case, I paid for Pro. I want to get a seat booked. So I want a flight to Paris next week for 2 days, leave on Sat and come back in 2 days, yeah? And then I'll say, let's do business class, and ideally a window seat. And then I'm gonna say my budget is 3K. Okay, so I'm just going to throw that in the mix, right? My budget is 3K. Let's go ahead and throw it. And then now look at this, what I've actually done here. We've mixed in a couple of semantic meanings, right? A window seat, right? That's a semantic question, right? That has meaning to it, but it's kind of hard to distinguish what a window seat is for a computer, right? Or AI. And then also the budget is a hard constraint. We have, specific dates that I'm saying as well. A lot of things come in the mix, but now it clears it up. I can help with that. Could you tell which city or airport you're departing from? Let's go ahead and say, I'm actually departing from London, London departing, right? And then in the mix, what I want to show you what's actually happening here. We have the chat going off, and guys, all we're doing behind the scenes is we're using Sanity Context to go ahead and power the entire thing. We have a special configuration in the backend which exposes the Sanity Context MCP, which is a hosted model context protocol server, and it provides our agent here basically a gateway. And that gateway allows it to have access to all the tools and access that we can see on the right-hand side. And what this does is it gives us so much power because it gives our agent the ability to understand our entire schema. That means everything that we can pretty much do inside of Sanity. That includes grok queries, so we can query for specifics. Things like type is flight, sales status is open, and as long as the operational status is scheduled or delayed, as well as having semantic questioning as well. So we can mix two types of search. And behind all of this, we have vector embeddings automatically generated for us, right? And also the instructions for the agent can get updated here. Right? So no more redeploying an agent if you have to go ahead and get something done. I have to call the development team. You don't have to do that. You can just go ahead and update instructions, click publish, and you're good. Now let's see what the agent actually did with that information, right? So in this case, it did a couple of quotes. So it actually found a few things, like London to Paris. It went ahead and checked Paris to London, return flight. It found window seats, went ahead and showed me nice widgets of them, and then it presented me a couple of seats, okay? So in this case, I want the 3A window seat. I think that looks pretty good to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab that seat. And then let's go ahead and see what it does. And remember, this is all custom tools that we can define with our agent. Absolutely crazy, powerful stuff. Which window seat for the return flight? Seat A, 3F, or 4A? Let's do 3A for both sides, a lot more easier, right? And notice how we have interactive widgets. Right, all of this again powered through Sanity Context, right? Allowing us to have all of the relevant context to be able to power our agent here. And again, so much easier than you can imagine to set up. Round trip total, calculated it for me, reserved the selection. So in this case, this is where we reserve that 10-minute hold, and then I will get a nice little booking widget, right? So in this case, it's going to go ahead and reserve the flight. And this is so much easier rather than, say some users don't know how to go ahead and navigate websites and so forth, but they need a flight ASAP. This is a very useful agent. Let reserve for 10 minutes, continue to check out, and then it went ahead and gave us the checkout, right? So in this case, we click it, and as you can see, it opens up our trip, and boom, here we have it. The entire flight with the pro seat discount. I can go ahead, pop my name in. I'm flying as Elon Musk, right? Of course, it's a joke. And then we're going to go ahead and issue a demo ticket. and then our ticket is going to go ahead and get confirmed, right? Of course, there are questions here, and this is what I was waiting for. There are questions like, for example, what about luggage? Extra luggage, sorry, just happened. Great. Firstly, thank you for the comment. I really appreciate these kind of comments because I want you guys to ask me these kind of things. In this case, of course, there is so much extra you can add here. Really, you can add steps for luggage. You can add steps for this, that. All I did for this base demo is basically adding different classes, and then those classes had individual sort of luggage requirements and so forth. But you can add in steps here. The main thing that I'm trying to showcase here is how to set up the systems, and the systems that are powering all of this are two very, very powerful, important systems that I'm going to cover right now. Number one, we have Sanity, right? So Sanity, you guys have seen before, but they have something impressive that I need to talk about. Sanity Context, right? So on this channel, we built AI agents all over the place. You've seen me build it with tons of different solutions, but this is truly one of the approaches that is it's incredibly simple to actually set up. And that's the big difference here. It's incredibly simple to set up, but it's incredibly powerful. And it also means that I, as a experienced developer, don't have to be there for the team to make changes. That's the ultimate game changer moment here, right? So what does it effectively do? Well, on their webpage, they've done an amazing job, to be honest with you. But in this case, your customer comes in, can ask a question like this, right? Comfortable hiking boots under $200, size 10, and then it can generate a query. Now, think about what it's doing here. It's generating a hard query against, and it's combining it with a semantic meaning, right? So semantic meaning is basically words that have meaning, right? Comfy. How can we say that something is comfy? Comfy is, related to certain things, but we can't actually query unless we store comfy as a value in our product, which we probably won't, right? So in this case, we have to combine things like price, size, in stock with semantic means like comfy. How do we do that, right? Well, in this case, it handles all of that behind the scenes with the vector embeddings. Then the agent or the MCP server is actually going to give us back the calls, which gives us back the products filtered by the rules, and it will rank them by relevance from our data set, right? Or respecting the things like permissions, the rules that we put in place. And that means your agent has much better context so it can give you a better answer. And that is the whole reason why it's called Sanity Context, right? Which I thought was pretty clever, right? And it's so easy to set up. We've got skills that we're going to go ahead and install, and then literally an agent can set the entire thing up for you. So this is part one. And then we have Clerk. Now, Clerk, you guys have seen me rave about Clerk on the channel a ton of times. Not only are they handling all of our authentication, right? So in this case, they're going to handle a ton of our authentication, right? And obviously all of the different approaches that you've come to know and you've seen on the web, Clerk handles everything. I use Clerk in all of my apps, just period. I love Clerk. And then of course, we're going to cover Clerk CLI, or I was about to say Clerk billing as well, we're actually covering. So if we go over to Clerk billing, you can see we've got subscription billing, right? That's for the pro memberships for the flights, right? Now, before you worry, don't worry, I've given all the code for everything inside this build for absolutely free, but I want to go ahead and actually showcase how we're going to do the important parts today on stream, right? And of course, that must involve covering the CLIs. Now, if you don't know what a CLI is, a CLI is a command line interface, right? When we talk inside of a terminal, the geeky computer, screen, that is effectively what a CLI is. Now, why is this so important when we talk about coding with AI agents? And this is where I want these lessons to be a lot more dialed into kind of, these kind of gems. So we're going to teach all about the Clerk CLI because by authenticating a CLI like Clerk, this can go ahead and give you or your agent full access to go ahead and manage your entire authentication from end to end. Okay, so not only by using things like skills can our agents get upgraded so they know how to basically be an expert in a specific domain. I'm going to teach you about MCPs, which basically expose tools that our agents can then use to interact with these third-party services and do things on our behalf. And then, of course, if we need to get really granular, that's where CLIs come in, and that's where basically our agent can basically control a CLI just as we would, and it can basically make those really minute granular changes. And that could be down from initializing a repo to setting up the configuration to webhooks to entire deployment steps, even to setting up things like the MCP for us. Okay, so all of this is going to get covered today. It's going to be one hell of a stream. So if you like the sounds of that, smash that like button, comment down below what your favorite part is before we dive into it. And let me go ahead and address some of these amazing comments before we dive in, right? So we got Athava says, Clerk is always a must. Yeah, I absolutely love Clerk, especially the way they're going agent first with all of this lately. And then of course, We have Vibes Home goes, wow, Sanity Context widget is so awesome. It's really, really cool, guys. And I'm telling you now, it is so simple to go ahead and get set up. And their docs are pretty damn incredible about getting everything up and running. Passion Brain says, good live lesson. You're absolutely welcome, dude. I appreciate you guys so much. I thought does it connect with some of the Replies API? No. So this main approach here is to showcase principles to you. So the principle here is you can set up your data store however you need. It could be an e-commerce store, it could be a flight booking system, whatever the case, right? Sanity does a whole lot more than just, I say just, but I mean, they add in all the AI elements to it, but they're more than that. They're an entire content operations platform. So you can store all of your data here. You can have your vector embeddings next to it. You can have everything live by default. You can query from it. You can effectively replace elements of your database with purely Sanity. And I've done it in a lot of builds as well. And your entire team can come into a safe and secure portal, right? So in this case, I can actually invite members to this portal, and all of this is authenticated. So if I tried to copy this link right now, go into an incognito browser, try to come here right now, boom, I can't come into that screen, right? And this, of course, is actually deployed live once it goes up. And of course, that means that, not anyone can come inside. But it gets even better because Sanity didn't leave it there, right? Of course, when we chat to agents, we need to know, is the conversations going well? Or, are these even being successful? Like, is this agent actually useful for customers? And that is where they have agent insights. And I've built that out today. And you can see here, we have agent insights. I've renamed it to Concierge Insights. And we can see a ton of information here, okay? So we have a record of all the conversations. We have the average number of messages. And of course, I was doing a lot of testing here, hence why we have a few negative messages. But we have the sentiment analysis. Now, this is so important, guys, because you can tell whether your agent is performing good or bad. And in this case, I've done loads of negative tests before. That's why we're getting loads of negatives. But it also tells us content gaps. Now, let's take a look at this. If I was to dive into conversations right now, I can see examples. Now, these ones are going to get basically analyzed every hour at the moment. But if we were to jump into, for example, one of my previous conversations, let's take a look at, for example, a positive sentiment, right? So let's go over and click onto this one. We can see this chat started off with a user asking for ticket information, and they went back and forth, and then they landed on a booking, which was great. That's a great outcome, okay? Let's go to this one, a negative outcome. What happened here? Well, I need a flight. Would you like a one-way trip, or what was the return date? One-way, quote, C9F. What would you like to book it? And then the conversation ended, okay? So perhaps maybe it wasn't enough information, but this is really the observability layer. And then we have even more insight in areas like this. We can see content gaps. So you can see here, at this point, I was probably updating the code because the agent didn't even reply, right? So this was my fault here. I probably just kind of killed the agent here. But you can see if I was to go from here, for example, the content gaps I identified was it didn't reply, right, to any of these. So that was likely me doing something on the development server. Same here. This is when I was probably testing. But what can actually happen is if we have a bit of back and forth, here we are, right? Need a flight from Paris to London, add a return flight. What return day works for you? Which recommended seats would you like to quote? Then you see for this one. And then you can see, look, a bit more information in these areas would have proven useful for this chat. That's what it's suggesting to us, okay? So this is really insightful. It allows us to have a lot deeper insight as to what's going on. And plus, we can have many agents reporting their stats to us, okay? So we can do everything just from this dashboard. Absolutely incredible, okay? So let me see how we're doing it. So we've got Athaba goes, Clerk CLI is a big game changer, 100%. He goes, even in the series, we went from manually setting up rows, subscription plan, now to an agent doing it for us. Yep, exactly. This is a lot of agent-driven development now. And then we even have Passion Brain saying, imagine apps that you just talk to a voice agent, book me the cheapest flight to Bali, book an hotel with breakfast in last week of August, boom, done. Literally what you could see here, right? So you're going to have that implementation by the end of today, right? Now, of course, when it comes to talking, think about it. You're not far from adding a talking element here. All you would have to do is add voice support here, and boom, you're done, right? It's very, very simple to get to that extra step and get the kind of finishing line in there, right? So in order to go ahead and get started with these, I want you to do two things before we dive into things, right? Number one, you can go ahead and get access to the entire code base for absolutely free. I've left the link down below in the description, and I've included everything that you could possibly imagine inside of here, explaining the architecture, how everything works. I've even broken down how to rerun the exact demo that I just showed on the screen right now, including seed scripts and everything that you could possibly need, guys. So go ahead and check it out. right? That is in the description down below. And then, of course, when you come to sign up with Sanity and Clerk, it would mean a world of difference to me if you simply use the links down below in the description, or you could even find them inside of the GitHub repo, right? So we've even got the links right here. They do tell the guys over at Clerk and the guys over at Sanity that you came from this video, and that allows me to keep on making videos like this for you guys, as well as every video on this channel, so much more easier, right? So I really appreciate you guys doing that. Thank you so much. Without further ado, let's dive into building this thing. Now, it's worth mentioning on this series, it's not about rebuilding clones anymore. It's not about, I've given you the code for this. We're not going to go ahead and rebuild this entire app. Instead, now I'm focusing a lot more on teaching, right? So the teaching element here, similar to how we run things inside of our courses and our communities. And if you haven't already, check out Zero to AI Hero. Our gates are opening up very, very shortly. Feel free to go ahead and join for absolutely free. And then, of course, when we open the doors, you'll be one of the first to join our community. It's absolutely free to go ahead and subscribe to the news waitlist right now. So go ahead and do that. But effectively, I'm going to be teaching how I teach inside of our inner communities. And that's been the best, most proven way that you guys seem to learn, right? So in this case, let's extract the most important parts here, right? We want to build a flight booking app. That includes a lot of moving parts, right? Seat allocation, different classes, dates, all of this stuff needs to be handled. We need a CMS, it's effectively Sanity Studio. Then we need to basically make all of that CMS data understandable and digestible for an AI agent. That's where Sanity Context is going to come in the mix, okay? Then on the front end, we need to basically add a layer of authentication. So we know who is trying to book that app and who is talking to our agents, because you don't effectively want, necessarily every single guest to come and talk to an agent. You might do, right? It depends on how you set things up. But in this case, we're making sure that it's pro members only, okay? And then, of course, I appreciate you. Runtime Times goes, come on, Sunny, I appreciate you. What's up? And then we've got, of course, all of the logic around the flight booking, the entire flow behind that. And then, of course, how to build a custom agent with embedding support, with, tools, custom tool calling, everything around that. And how do you get your agent to understand a complex schema like this, right? I'm going to show you from absolute ground zero all the way through to building everything out, right? As well as pricing. So Clerk billing is going to be set up here as well. Okay. So the first step I want you to do is head over to the Clerk CLI documentation. You can go to clerk.com/CLI. And then I want you to go ahead and install this right here, right? So npm install, and it depends whatever you're using, Bun, PNPM, Yarn, Homebrew, whatever you want to do, feel free to use whatever is comfortable to you. I'm going to go ahead and I've already installed this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my warp, and this is basically just a terminal. And I'm going to simply type in clerk update, right? Because I just want to make sure I'm on the latest update here. So at the time of this recording, I am at 3.1.0, right? Vibe Salmon says, is that flight data dummy or did you get it from any public API? This flight data has been added in from our operational team. Okay. So the operational team is effectively, what I'm trying to show you here is how you can build a full system. So imagine like you're an airport, you're responsible for putting in all the flights and all that kind of stuff. This is the operational layer. So you could basically come in here, customize everything on the side. So I'm trying to show you the depth layer, right? So obviously you can go ahead and pull APIs and flight APIs. Anyone can do that, right? I'm trying to show you how you can actually go ahead and actually build the infrastructure behind it. Okay. So in this case, we've got all of the ability to go ahead and actually store all that information. And then I'm going to go ahead and show how you can digest all of this so an agent can use it. And look, this is complex information, guys. So how can an agent, where do we begin with this, right? And don't worry, that's where Sanity Context is an absolute game changer, okay? So heading back over, we've already, step one is to install the Clerk CLI. Now, once you've done that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to next get started with Sanity. Now, if you head over to the first link or one of the first links in the description, you'll hit the Sanity link. So what you want to do is go over to the following link on the screen. So in this case, you can see sanity.io, get started, and then dash coupon Sanity. And the reason why I'm stressing this one is go to this link, guys, because you'll get double boosted free trial. Okay. So when you sign up and create a new project through that link, all of the pro benefits, or the upgraded benefits, you'll get double of that by using my coupon code, right? And the coupon code is Sunny in case you need to remember that, right? So we're not going to create anything yet. I just want you to have your account ready, and same with Clerk, okay? With Clerk, go through the link in the description, create an account, and then you'll land over at your first starting page, right? Once you've done that, you're good at that point. Just stop there for a sec, right? The next step is we need to prepare our coding harness. Now, the coding harness today, I tend to swap every time we come on the stream. You can use whatever you want to use. Claude Code, Codex, use Hermes agents if you care, right? Whatever you want to do, right? But in this case, I'm going to be using Codex today. And I do tend to show my code on cursor when we're building, okay? So the previous code, I've actually got open here in cursor editor view. So this is all the code I've given you guys to absolutely free. So you can feel free to go ahead and grab that yourself. But in this case here, we're going to be setting things up on Codex. So I'm going to click on plugins and we're going to prepare our environment, right? Plugins effectively install a bunch of helpful stuff for our agent. They effectively install skills, MCPs, and other useful things that help our agent understand and basically work on certain third-party tools. Number one, we're going to do is clerk, okay? So I'm going to type in clerk here. And now you can see I've already installed this one. So if you haven't installed it, simply click on install and you can see it installs 20 different skills, okay? As well as a Chrome extension pattern, end-to-end testing and so forth, okay? So that's number one. We've already installed the CLI, right? So that's going to be a great start as well. And then Sanity is next, right? So I want you to go ahead and click on Sanity and then I want you to install this one. And you can see this is going to pull in the app, Sanity app, right? So at this point, you'll have to connect. Right, so I've already connected, at which point it brings up an OAuth flow and it asks me to log into my Sanity account, which you would have created a second ago. Okay. Now, once that's done, our agent can now basically, it's a lot more capable of working with Clerk because it has Clerk skills. It's got the Clerk CLI, which by the way, you have to authenticate. So before we continue, remember we had the Clerk CLI. What I want to do is I've shown you guys that I've already got Clerk updated. It's already there. You want to make sure you do Clerk login. Okay. Now I've already logged in, so I'm not going to do this step, but do clerk login and then it will log in to your authenticated session, right? And then that way, whenever you use a command from the CLI, it's acting on behalf of you, right? So it'll pop up with the login flow. Now, once that's done, the next step is we want to get a bit more granular now. So we're going to be working with Sanity Context, as I mentioned earlier, which is the incredible thing that powers up the entire agent understanding our schema and giving us all of the powerful benefits of, grok querying alongside semantic reasoning. Everything in the mix, right, happens with our Sanity Context and our agent. We're going to go ahead and install the skills for this. So what I want you to do is scroll down. They have some great videos by our friends over there, and you can go ahead and install the skill right here. Okay. Now you can install this inside of your terminal, and it will go ahead and ask you the typical installer flow. And that's actually the way I'm going to do it today, right? So in this case, we're going to go ahead and we're going to firstly, what I want you to do is actually go ahead and you can do this two ways. You can either install it globally. So if I was to do it right now, what you'll find is it will pop up and then it will say, okay, installation summary. And then it will ask me, it's installing the skills. And in this case, my default's already there. But installed, I've got like 77 agents, but it'll ask you typically which agents you want to install to, but you want to install these skills, okay? And now you can see I've got them universally installed across all of my different agents, okay? But in my opinion, what we're going to also do is install it to the repo that we end up creating, which is our code where it lives, okay? Thank you so much, Vibe Sama. He goes, Sunny always surprises us on every build, something with a new concept every time. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, dude. All right. And then we can run this prompt once we're ready. Now, we're not going to do that just yet. Okay. We're just preparing ourselves now. Okay. So we've pretty much got everything ready. So now the next step is I would recommend going ahead and installing things like the Vercel skill. So the Vercel skill will give you a bunch of skills around things like next.js, how to go ahead and work with all of Vercel's, platforms, including things like ShadCN. So it has got a bunch of extra things like that in the mix, as well as connecting to your Vercel. So when you want to come to deploy, it helps you out. So we're going to go ahead and install that. Make sure you're connected. Okay. At that point, you can install any other skill that you wish and see fit that helps out your coding flow, right? It's really kind of personal for how you want to work. Now, after this, I'm going to go ahead and create a new chat and I'm going to open up a project. Now here, I'm going to click new project and I'm going to go ahead and say for this project, I'm going to call it, let's call it flight booking app. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on create project. Now I'm inside of a flight booking app. We've got the local and I'm on the main. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and press plus and I'm going to say plan mode on. And then I'm going to begin writing out the plan. So in this case, I'm using Super Whisper, right, for a lot of my voice setup. And I believe you can use code Sunny25 over at Super Whisper to go ahead and get a discount. But I love using it. It's how I basically prevent myself from typing all the time and just talking to the computer. So here I want to say, I want to create a flight booking app that can go ahead and do the following. We should be able to select the source and destination that we want to go to. It should support one-way tickets as well as round trips. We should be able to select a class, so business class, first class, or economy. And we should be able to go ahead and select the equivalent seats. And it should be a visual seat picker. And then I should go through to a dummy payment flow where we can go ahead and process the booking. Okay, so very, very high level first starting point. Okay, so you can see here, I'm just talking into Codex, right? Now, there's a couple of key things I want to mention here, which are quite important, right? So I'm going to say you must use the following. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and pop it in. I'm going to say next.js 16, and I always like to say latest version. Okay, just to kind of give it a little bit of a kick in the right direction, right? Then we're going to say Sanity Studio for all flight and booking information. Okay, then we're going to say Sanity Context for our AI agent implementation, custom tools, and assistance on booking flights. Okay, that's going to be the next bit. And then we're going to say clerk for authentication and pro billing. And in brackets, I'm going to say where pro, and this is where I sometimes go between typing and talking, because I'm thinking as well, where pro means users get, let's just say, free seat bookings plus access to the AI agent concierge desk, right? And then we'll say where they can book and chat to the agents. Well, they can book and chat, but they can book, chat, ask questions, ask customer support questions, and book, and book flights through agents. Okay. Now, after this, what I really recommend, right? So this is all about kind of getting into kind of the prompt side of things, right? Or how to prompt right. So at this point, what I would recommend doing is I would still put this in the mix, right? So where we have this, I would go ahead and I'd pop in this. I'll say install this into the repo, right? Even regardless of us installing it elsewhere, right? Then for clerk, what I would do is I go ahead and I do shift, enter, tab. And then for clerk, what I would like to do is I always give it extra knowledge, right? I go ahead and I copy this page and I'll say, use the installed CLI to set everything up, right? And then I'll say always at the bottom for all third parties services, always use the skills, plugins, and MCPs available, okay? And ask me if there is one that isn't authenticated, right? So you see how I'm preparing now? And then what I would recommend you do is at this point, you can actually do at, right? So you can say at sanity, for example, right? At clerk, right? You can go ahead and pop that in as well. Right? You can even do at Basel, right? If you want to pop in that as well. And that gives you explicit mentions. So it just makes sure that it's 100% in the mix. And at this point, I always like to copy as well, right? So let's just make sure we copied everything in case we lose it. And then what I want to do is we get our CLI, and I also want to make sure the Sanity CLI is installed, right? So Sanity CLI is the next one, command line interface here. And then what I'll do is I'll copy this current URL. I'll go over to Sanity and I will say install the Sanity CLI and ask to auth if needed. And I will simply go ahead and I'll pop in the link, okay? Now, with this, the agent can actually set up every single thing that we need, okay? Install this into the repo. We've got the skills for Sanity Context. We have Sanity Studio, and we of course got Sanity skills over here. We've got Next.js with Vercel, right? So the plugins already mentioned everything. And then we are in plan mode, so we're gonna have a discussion with our agent now. I am using 5.6 SO on ultra mode, and we can go ahead and mess around with the different speeds. If I press command dot and I go to our usage, today we are starting off the build with a weekly usage of 92% left, okay? So I like to show that in the beginning to go ahead and help you guys out. Now, let's go ahead and vet things out a bit more, okay? So actually, I also wanna say here, I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna say use shadcn for accessible components, right? Now, let's go ahead and hit enter, okay? So now what this will do is it will go ahead and give us our initial plan, right? So what we wanna do here is I'm gonna go ahead and just pin my chat so we can get rid of all the noise. So here we can go ahead and pin the chat, and then I've got my chat starting to go ahead and derive a plan now. So I'm grounding this in the current repo first, then I'll map the Sanity, Clerk, Vercel, and shadcn requirements into a decision complete build plan. Since we're in planning mode, I'll inspect and verify everything now, including auth tool availability, but I won't install packages or modify files yet. I'm using the clerk and the sales skills because you explicitly selected those plugins. I also probe the Sanity connector and the exact Sanity IO context package workflow, right? So this is effectively going to set up a ton of stuff for us. So back in the day, before we had to actually go into Clerk, we had to create a new application. And at this point, we would go ahead and put in our name, our sign-in options. If we needed multi-tenancy, basically check what we want between consumer and B2B, and then you would set things up appropriately like that. Now, our agent can do the entire thing from end to end. Our main focus should be the architecture and basically the plan. The plan is so important, guys. I cannot stress this enough, okay? So a quick little water break, and then I'm going to answer a couple of your questions. Okay, so we have Bop99. He goes, hi. Oh, what's up, dude? He goes, yo, what the hell is going on with codex limits? I used to get through the whole week on a $100 plan. Now I've used 60% of weekly in a single day. Same so high and medium usage as before, etc. So a few things could be happening here. And this is why it's really important to understand, one, how you're using AI, and two, the way AI works, okay? So number one, when you use lots of tools, it can rack up your token usage a lot, right? A single token tool call, especially if it's unnecessarily going and finding the route when you could have just installed a skill, for example, beforehand to help it out, it's going to go ahead and use tools to basically derive information, and that will rack through tokens. The second thing is your context window. So in this case, if I notice that this is basically nearly full, and the good thing is when you're using 560, it's actually by default in Codex capped at 258 context, okay? So by the time it gets to around 90% usage, it'll start to actually compress and basically, summarize our summary. But a lot of you right now are using, for example, Claude Opus, and you're letting it go to 1 million contexts because you believe that's better. More information in our agent is better, right? No, that's where the danger can come in. When you have a bloated context window, every request, yes, there's clever things like prompt caching and so forth, but every request is going to actually cause you to go ahead and send all of those tokens over to the API, and then go ahead and basically return everything every time. So you're getting exponentially more expensive the more the context window fills up. So rule of thumb, keep it at 258K, right? Unless you absolutely are doing a really hard thing and you need the million context window. And in my opinion, even on So Ultra right now, you'll see that they'll be very efficient in the way it's going to work today, right? Now, in this case, there's already created, I won't assumably dispose or create a duplicate. I'm inspecting his data sets. So here I'll say stop. I'll say no, create a new complete project, right? Assume no previous project exists, right? So I'm going to start from absolute scratch, right? So again, even when you're watching it think, I would highly recommend you just give it a read sometimes, because it can go ahead and cause issues sometimes, right? Now, I'm just going to do something quickly in the back. 1 second, guys. Oops, what have I done here? What did I do? Did I close everything? Jay, am I live? Huh? Am I good? Okay, whoa, I just hid everything on my screen. Wow, that freaked me out. Oh my God, guys, give me 1 second. I just literally hid everything. I don't know what command I just used, but wow, my God, I thought I just closed everything. And I thought I completely killed that stream. Oh my God, okay, we're good. All right. Okay, we're back. Wow, that was like a mini heart attack. All right, so we're back now. So this will be a completely new application. All services required is now confirmed. Sanity CLI auth, clerk CLI auth, and Vercel CLI auth. Okay, perfect. Right, and again, ask me questions, please, throughout this build, right? Here, I'm going to say use PNPM, and I'm going to press Command Enter because I want to basically push that into the mix as well. What I was going to do before anyway, I'll carry on doing that for a sec. I was just going to make my AC a little bit colder because it's very, very hot in my apartment right now. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me go ahead and pop that. So, okay, use PNPM, reconciling PNPM and npx command. Okay, yeah, we're going to use PNPM just to be a bit more efficient on the storage side of things. And then going back to the context usage, okay? So yeah, your context window is going to be incredibly important. Another thing is if you are on speed, fast, of course, that's going to increase your usage very quickly. So you really want to be kind of careful with these things in the picture as well. Now, really, I want you to think about one thing, right? There are a million ways to get the same agent to do something, right? And where that agent starts from is going to be heavily biasing the direction that it takes. For example, if we took an agent right now, never told it a single thing about Sanity Context, and we said, I want you to figure out how to build an agent that basically can understand my schema. It's going to go and try and do everything manually on its own. And it will burn through so much trying to go and find the information. It'll try to stitch things together. You will have a mishmash of information, and that will burn through money, that will burn through your tokens. It's an absolute waste. So I highly recommend every single time, regardless of what you do, regardless of the way that you work, every single time you always give it access to the information. So even I will always have documentation open as I'm using something. And if I want it to cover a specific thing, I will always go into that thing and I will go ahead and do, for example, Command-Shift-C. I'm using Arc. It'll copy the URL and I will simply paste in. I'll be like, use this documentation. Never use pre-trained information from a model. It doesn't matter how good the model is. It's not the same as giving it the up-to-date information, right? And never trust an agent is going to do what you say. Right, you always have to check in with it. Now, let's dive through how Codex is working right now. We've got sub-agents, 3 of them kicking off, 1, 2, 3, and these are all basically working in tandem. Now, I have found that Codex is incredibly efficient at doing this, and you can see here we have a question, right? So it's here, what should free seat bookings mean for pro members? Seat fees waived, yep, that's perfect. Then we have how far should the AI concierge be allowed to take a booking? Review, then pay. The agent selects flight and seats, create a checkout drop, then the user reviews and submits the dummy payment. Yep. We want to basically be responsible for the final part. What flight catalog should the new Sanity project ship with? Dubai Hub, see the polished DXP center network to major global cities with enough data flights for demos. Global network. I would say in this case, it's a demo. Okay, so I'm going to do from Dubai, where I am, and basically have it, branch out accordingly. But you could really do this however you want, global network, whatever the case. We're going to just do a Dubai hub here. So we'll say Dubai hub, don't overload our sanity limits, right? And basically, because I don't want to, this is a demo. I don't want to go over sanity limits, for the free plan if I don't need to. Okay, so in that case, you can go ahead and do that. So then it can go ahead and guide it a bit more. And on the right-hand side, you can see these agents are working. Now, what I really like about Codex, and I think Claude Code just introduced this as well, is basically your sub-agents can actually talk to each other. So if information comes up in one agent and basically is relevant for another agent, they can message each other, right? And it's very, very good for many reasons. It means that each time a new agent doesn't have to spawn up, and every time an agent spawns is typically around 20,000 tokens minimum, right? And then you've got basically the same context that has to go ahead and digest to go ahead and get up to date with what you're doing. We can save all of that overhead by simply having the same agent stay alive and message it, right? How should we handle privacy, booking privacy after Sanity's growth trial ends? Keep private and production test datasets and retain a paid Sanity plan. So in this case, you actually do get 2 Sanity datasets, I believe, when you're setting things up. So if we go over to our Sanity dashboard, we can do that very simply by going over to our studio, clicking here, manage project, and then you can see once we're inside of here, let's have a look. So we're in the growth trial plan. If we go to datasets, we get 2, and there's 2 inside included in the plan. So in this case, we can have like 1 for test, 1 for production, and so forth. Let's go ahead and see keep private or free demo only. Let's go ahead and do the keep private, right? So we can upgrade to a Sanity paid plan afterwards. That's not a problem. Should the pro subscription use Clerk's test gateway or charge real money at launch? We're simply going to use the test billing from Clerk, okay? Which initial monthly pro price should the Clerk plan use? We should say 19 USD per month, or let's just say maybe 67 USD annual. Okay, so you can go ahead and do that. And again, Clerk billing allows us to have all of that built into the mix, right? Now, even for things like customizing the Clerk billing page, there are some really cool things you can do. So if we go over to the documentation, so docs, let's go to next.js, and then inside of here, we can see billing management. We can see custom brands, account credits are very, very cool as well. And they also support discount and promo codes now, which is awesome. So imagine you want to go ahead and give, loyalty discounting and so forth. You can do that all from the dashboard as well as the agent can do it. But I want to show you if we go to our, we actually have custom components. I believe it was Clerk. No, it wasn't Clerk Elements. If we can actually do it ourselves by doing Clerk, or we can do checkout button. So we type in Command K, checkout button. So this allows us to actually build a custom checkout component. So if you've ever used Clerk billing before, you'll know they have something called a pricing table, which is awesome. You render a single line of code, literally a single line of code, and it will give you your entire pricing table with all the features in the mix. So we could do that, or we can tell our agent, use the checkout button to fully customize the pricing table and make it reactive based on which membership I'm currently in. And also, when you're using Clerk Billing, make sure you use only the SDK to go ahead and support things. The source of truth is always going to be Clerk Billing, not Sanity or not any other data source. In that case, it did copy, but it asked me a question. So we'll go back to that in a sec. Which seat selection charges should Pro waive? All seats in the cabin. That's fine, yeah. Adults, so which passenger types should version 1? Adults only. So you could do, again, you could actually have, multiple people. You could have kids as well. In this case, we're just going to do adults only, right? And then we'll do, should the first release include connecting flights? Oh, that's a tricky one, right? So you can do one-stop routes, but in this case, we're just going to do direct to go ahead and kick things off. And then you can see my previous prompt came in, and then I've actually got my thing on a clipboard, so I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. And here you can see use the clerk checkout button, and also when using the clerk billing, make sure you only use the SDK to go ahead and support things such as the has function and show functions, right? And I like to add these two in because it makes sure that it uses the actual API calls, right? And then even here you can see that sanity, right? Now we're going to pop that in, and I'm also going to steer as well. And now basically the main thing that I would highly stress about is spend more time on your plan. And when you do your planning step, use a strong model, guys. The planning is the most important part. Give your agent the relevant skills, give the relevant agents the plugins, the MCPs, everything that it needs to write the strongest plan. And then I want you to attack that plan in 5 different ways. Get, if you want to do it from different models, whatever the case, but attack the hell out of the plan, make it, review its own plan, go over that plan so much. And then really you can downgrade the model in the execution step if you want to save on money, right? So for example, we could use Fable 5, right? We could use Mythos, we could use 5.6. So if you have access to whatever you want, use the top model that you have for the plan. And then when it comes to execution, you can switch to maybe something like Opus 5, right? Opus 5, cheaper. You can switch to maybe Kimi K3. You can switch to GLM, right? Whatever you want to do. But the implementation stage can have a weaker model as long as the plan is absolutely solid, okay? So at this point, the plan is going to be like that blueprint that they should all reference. Vulnerability Exploit says, yo, Sunny, another W build. Yay, what's up, dude? Good to see you here. And thank you for joining this stream. And all I ask, guys, if you're enjoying this content in this series, we're on episode 18 now, absolutely crazy. And we passed over 459,000 subscribers, right? Which is absolutely just wild to me. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate and love all you guys, right? So let's go ahead and give this a second to do its thing. And in a moment, this will go ahead and actually get everything set up for us. And you will know because we'll start getting access after the plan is finalized. We can go ahead and actually get access to our different accounts. But in the meantime, let me give you a deep dive into Sanity's backend so we can actually have a look at how things work. So if we go over to Manage Project, I'm going to go ahead and expand this out. We can see this is effectively our dashboard for customizing things, right? So not only have they got an amazing getting started section, if you don't want to be like me and go through the agent, you can either do the agent setup, right? Which is what I do. I think it's a lot easier, or the guided installation, which they have a ton of videos for. Simeon, I believe, done a really good job here of explaining all the different things. I do think even if your agent is setting things up, it's worth going into the guided and just learning about how the thing works. But you should never blindly trust. Like if I can understand, I can always understand every bit of output that my agent can deliver. If you can't, you need to do your homework and basically ask your agent questions, figure out what's going on and so forth, right? Because don't just trust these things blindly, right? Things like the API as well, tokens, cause origin, everything is also going to be set from our CLI, right? So our agent is going to be able to do that. So I'm now replacing Clerk's pre-built pricing table with a fully custom Shadcn pricing surface powered by Clerk's checkout button. Awesome stuff, right? The Clerk update is locked into the design. Pricing page will fetch plan through use plans, display current subscription state through use subscription, and then it will conditionally render with show. Amazing, okay? So this is the power of the Clerk skills in the CLI coming into play. But even then, if we look actually at the billing, I'll show you actually what's going on there. So if we go over to billing, it's very, very nice what they've done with the Clerk billing side of things. You head over to Clerk billing, B2C is what we're doing because we're billing to customers. Right? And then you can see here, we've got the pricing table, and this is simply how you would check, right? You can check against the current plan that they're on. You can check against the current feature that they have inside of a plan and things such as the following. So if I go over to the previous flight booking demo, go to configure, I can show you guys here. We got the Slimy Show. What's up, dude? I see you in the chat. Go to billing, setting subscription plans. You guys can see here, this is where I previously had configured the O Pro plan. And you can see the features that go ahead and get connected. If we go ahead and actually edit, you can see they have keys. Okay, those keys are what get mapped against things inside of the documentation, right? So where am I at? Where would it go? Here, right? So you can see here, has plan. It could be like has plan pro, or it could be things like has feature. Now, if a benefit of doing feature is that you can actually, once you've set it up once, you can actually just toggle things off in the back end. So in Clerk's dashboard, you can go ahead and say, remove that feature from that plan, and then suddenly everyone loses access to it, right? And even for the show, you can say show these child components when the user has this plan or feature, and fallback will be what would render, for example, like an upgrade prompt or upgrade card. So they've got tons of really cool stuff, as well as free trials, free and complimentary access, and so forth, and seat-based plans if you're doing B2C, which is really, really nice. Okay, now heading back over to our plan, let's go ahead and see. So now we get presented the plan. Let's have a look, right? Of course, let's go ahead and make that a bit bigger so we can read it. Let's pop this down. So build a greenfield and PNPM. We're going to look quickly, web and studio. Now, you can do it this way. I'm not always a fan of separating these two, to be honest with you. I want my studio to be inside of my Next.js application. So I'm going to say put studio inside the Next.js app at the /studio route. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and actually do that, because you can see you can do it two different defined ways, but I actually want it. So when we deploy, say for example, I have like sunnysanger.com /studio, I should be able to go in from anywhere in the world to /studio, log into my approved Sanity member account, right? In which case I've approved that on the dashboard. And then we should be able to go ahead and, update everything, our product team, right? And that's really, really powerful to be able to do that. So we want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and actually embed it in the Next.js app. Then we have the clerk billing side of things. Amazing. The product and data implementation. We've got flights, pricing, booking. Nice. Trips and trip ID, right? And then the Concierge, which is the pro-only AI booking in the support workspace. Supports 1 to 6 adults, non-stop flights, economy business first, one-way and round trip. And then we can see the compact to buy hub. Okay. Now, do we have the operational flight inventory, seat holdings? And this is important, the seat holding. Remember, if you've got two people trying to book the same seat, we have to account for that logic. Clerk billing and the concierge. Use the current AI SDK, tool loop pattern, typed UI messages, Vercel AI gateway, and currently, remember, this is what I would actually recommend from the skills that we installed. Right, publish one Sanity Context document. This follows the Sanity Context security model. Amazing. That's exactly what we want to do. And then add authenticated custom tools. Search available flights. We've got get seat availability, get my bookings, get my booking, and prepare booking draft. Amazing, right? Tool derives user ID has feature. So make sure that that user has the feature based on their clerk billing subscription, right? So that will be tied to their pricing and billing side of things. Contracts and verification, flight search input, and so forth. Okay, and then we got the assumptions. Working brand is Aerodesk. Okay, so we're going to stay with Aerodesk. All fares and pro pricing are USD. Sanity inventory is synthetic, and no real airline API is integrated. Yep, it's fully a demo. Okay, flight checkout is dummy. Connections, children's, cancellations are all outside of V1. Right. So actually, just to let you know, Stripe billing is very easy to connect. Right. Once you're actually gone ahead and actually set things up, it's as simple as going into the back end. So if we go over here and basically toggling a simple thing, if we go into settings for the billing. You can see here with payment gateway. Initially, we can do clerk payment gateway. And then once you're ready, you would basically toggle this into a production instance, which again, the agent can help you with the CLI. Then you'll go ahead and click on Stripe account and connect an existing one or create a Stripe account from scratch. Okay. So you can go ahead and do that and it will basically handle it for you. So things to know before we go ahead and get started, right? So it's going to go ahead and upgrade that now or update the plan. And then of course you can add in things like cancellations, refunds, check-in, boarding passes, email delivery, loyalty points. I'm going to leave these as bonus things for you guys. My main focus is showing you guys how we can enable things like vector embeddings. So that's another step, right? To enable vector embeddings, which I'll explain in a moment, but basically we have to do one thing now. Remember, inside of our studio, this is how the data is going to be presented, right? Now, this is effectively all stored inside of something called a schema. Okay, so I'm going to go into our code right now and I'm just going to type in schema. What's happening here? Why is this frozen? Okay, interesting. So my cursor is frozen. So let's have a look. Cursor, Foursquare. Let's kill cursor for a sec. Okay, we're good. All right, so in this case, I'm going to open up cursor again. We'll give that a moment and we have it back here, right? Hey, we got Sana code. Good to see you. I was wondering when you're going to turn up. All right, I'm going to do pm dev to kickstart off that build. And I just want to showcase something. If we go to our schema, right? And we typically will have it inside of our, these are all the skills. No, I want to have just our typical schema. So here we have it. Schema types index, right? So there's a big amount of schema in this one, in the previous one. But effectively, if we were to go into, for example, a passenger schema, it's a passenger object with user icon with a full name, right? That's all that we have for the passenger right now. If we have, for example, airport, this is what is inside of an airport and so forth, right? How do we get our agent to understand this? And to do that, we have to create something called vector embeddings. Now, inside of Sanity Context, if you type in Sanity Context, vector embeddings, it's very, very simple. It's a CLI command to actually set this up. So you go to dataset embeddings, and then here you can see it's simple. We create an embedding enabled dataset, and basically our agent can do all of this as well. And what we have to do is have something called projection, right? Now, this is basically which data should we include inside of our AI's embedding. Now, think of it this way, right? The amount of data that we put inside the AI embedding helps the agent improve its understanding about, what that item is. So for example, if we were to create a vector embedding about a passenger, if I just put a name inside of there, it's not very useful, right? But if I put, for example, let's just say, or instead of a passenger, let's do a plane, right? A plane. Let's just say, for example, the capacity or the weight that plane can hold, the number of seats that plane has. If I just put the name of the plane inside of the embedding projection, that's not very. Am I still live? Okay, can you guys see me? Okay, I think we're good now. Okay, well, did it carry on the stream, or I just want to have a little check-in? Did it carry this? Okay, whoa, there we go. Oh, okay. Just let me know, guys, is the stream resumed? So are we still at 57 minutes? Okay, oh my God. All right, that's where we enabled this new setting, which basically saves the stream if it dies, but much needed water break for that. All right, so as I was saying, right, that's how we turn data into a vector embedding. So heading back over to our plan, let's have a look at the plan now. And we are here, okay? So guys, remember, just let me know if anything happens. Really don't know why that happened, but we're good now. That's the main thing, okay? So at this point, yeah, do me a favor, hit that like button at this point. It means more than ever you can imagine, right? So hit that like button. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and say, yes, implement this plan, okay? Anonymous users can browse. Authentication is required before holding seats or booking, all right? So in this case, we are gonna actually allow users to chat with that bot. So yes, implement this plan. Let's go ahead and do it. Now, if you're on ultra mode, it will actually spawn up sub agents, right? Versus extra high. Now, often you might think this is going to drain through your usage at a crazy rate, but to be honest with you, I found in Claude it will. In Claude, especially Opus, oh my God, I don't know why it's going crazy lately, but it will go through your rate so fast, it's nuts. Whereas when it comes to GPT 5.6 So, no, that's actually pretty damn amazing at doing it, right? So these are different things to consider when you're basically choosing your agent model. Now, in this case, we're going to go ahead and let it start. And I'm going to be answering any questions that you guys have about the current setup and plan. And what I would recommend as well is you download the plan at the same time. So always download the plan and basically make sure that everything is working, right? So Athava says, yeah, Opus has been acting like that lately. Yeah, and the biggest way of knowing if it has this issue is basically you'll see that it just gives you, I don't know, it gives you so many words back every time. I feel like Claude is operating in a way right now where it's designed to burn through your tokens. So yeah, whatever you're doing, Claude, just sort it out. Whereas GPT right now are doing the opposite. They're maximizing your tokens to a huge amount. I absolutely go crazy with this thing. And look, right now, we haven't even pushed 1%, guys. I was at 92 when we started. So pretty crazy, if you ask me, right? So let's go ahead and put the music back up. I think we're good. So at this point, we're going to go and see, I use Metaspark. It's super cheap. Oh, nice. Metaspark apparently is very good as well now. As well, if you have like me, I've got an M5 Max, really powerful machine. You can run Qwen 3.8 27 billion parameter model locally, which is equivalent somewhat to your Opus 4.6 locally, unlimited for free, which is absolutely nuts. So the age of AI right now is crazy. And this is why I will say over and over again, is it true that coding is not as, It's a tricky question to answer here, but I'm going to try and do my best here to give you the realest answer that I can to help you guys for your future. It's not that coding is done. It's not, no. Coding is very important, and trust me, there's a big difference between someone who vibe codes versus someone who knows what they're doing. There's a huge difference. The difference is that you need to understand how things work, the architecture behind things, and decisions behind why we choose specific things. For example, anyone can go ahead and vibe code and say, I want an AI agent that can do basically understand all of my data. That's not going to scale very well. And then plus, you're going to be absolutely limited to, if you want to make any change, you're going to have to come in, make a code change. That's very, you know, it can break something and so forth. Whereas if you know things like Sanity exist, this is where it absolutely is a totally different situation. So things like Sanity, once you deploy it, you can go ahead and just deploy this. And now your team can come in, and now you've created an entire operation side. So team members can come in, and actually in multiplayer, by the way, go ahead and create changes. They can see drafts, they can see published states, they can even go ahead and schedule new releases all at the same time. And that means that, for example, if I wanted to schedule, let's just say we're gonna open up to 10 more airports, right? I can schedule a release, make those changes, and then I can publish all those changes together, right? All in one go. And then, for example, if I want my AI to understand about all of that stuff, I don't even have to worry about it. I just have to toggle on vector embeddings one time, set up agent insights so I can go ahead and see what the conversations are saying, set up the agent with the skill that they gave me earlier, and the rest is golden, right? The agent will handle everything, right? So in this case, look, Context is installed, Sanity Clerk and Persona plugin authentication all passed. Sanity is connected to Sanity's organization, Clerk official guidance. So we're good so far. And this is where you should be checking. You should be checking at this point, did it hiccup? Do I need to authenticate something? Okay. The context install 3 repo local scopes. Now, here's another thing. When you create code, right? So in this case, I'm going to press Command J, and let's go ahead and we've got flight booking app. I'm going to do PWD and see where it is. So it's in my documents, ChatGPT. I'm going to do cursor dot because I want to open it up in a code repo, right? So that way in a code editor, so I can see what's going on. And I highly recommend you all do this as well, right? So I'm going to go ahead and throw it over here. So I want to see what code it has available in the beginning, right? So right now it's empty repo, okay? We've got the agents, the skills, and basic skills log file, okay? Now, the reason why you want to install skills to a repo as opposed to locally is because if you install it locally, sure, you're going to have access to that skill. But let's say, for example, Jay's like, Sunny, I want to bring the code on my machine. Why is my agent acting dumb compared to your agent? Your agent, you said one thing and it worked. Why is my agent acting stupid? Because if Jay pulled the code on his machine, he hasn't got the same skills if I installed all the skills globally. What that meant is if I install it globally, right? So -G or, you know, like on the computer, it installs to my computer. If I install to the project, so a lot of times when you install a plugin or skill, it says add to the project. If I install to a project, then it installs to the repo, right? So this repo. Now, why is that such an important difference? Because the repo installation means that anyone who clones this app gets the skill. So any agent that goes ahead and is used. So for example, if I was to use an agent right now, they all have access to the skills inside this repo. So you want your skills repo to be built out to help future agents, future coding harnesses, your team members and so forth have better capability. And here you can see that the NPM scaffolding, next scaffolding just got thrown in. Amazing stuff. Okay, so in this case, we have, we've got the context, we've got Sanity 6 next, and we've got Clerk. Now, one thing I would recommend here, which it loves to mess up on, is we're going to click on package.json, and I want to make sure when it installs things, we want to make sure it installs the latest, right? So obviously, minor updates like this is fine, right? That's okay. We don't really care too much about that. But next, in this case, let's go ahead and see 16.3.2. That's good. And then as Clerk and Sanity get installed, I want to make sure that those get installed with the proper latest versions, because sometimes they can kind of run into a bit of a hiccup and you need to keep an eye on that, because you might be like, well, I did everything you said and something didn't go right. Well, remember, AI is non-deterministic, which means that whatever my agent does is going to be different to what your agent does. It's going to be different to what I ask my agent to do tomorrow, even if I gave it the exact same prompt. It's not deterministic. We can't say the same prompt is going to give us the same outcome every single time. Right? So this is something that we have to be aware of with AI. That's why it's no point me giving you the prompts for every build and you say, okay, I'm going to do exactly what Sunny said, because your agent might follow a slightly different path. Your model might have a slightly different path to what I'm doing. A lot of factors come into play. Okay. So Embedded Studio is now confirmed against Sanity's current Next.js 16 documentation. So let's have a look. So if we go over to source, we can see sanity, and then we have our environment. Okay, and we go to app, we can see the studio route. So this is where the app, so in Next.js, we have app routing, folder-based routing. So in this case, this is going to be /studio. And this is where our next Sanity Studio is going to be rendering out. We've got a page right now, which is currently just a Vercel starting point. And then the rest of it is still yet to be done. If we click environment local, right now we have nothing being applied yet. Okay. So Sanity authenticated and wrote the correct project environment values, but PNPM intentionally blocked the sbuild install script. So CLI stopped before. So this is actually because I have a special PNPM check, which means that if it's a new package less than 7 days old, it doesn't just go ahead and install it. It will make sure that it asks me first. So in this case, it's going to add it to something called an allow list. And that's just basically because if you didn't hear it, or if you don't know already, there was a very popular hack where basically a new dependency got released onto NPM and basically attacked a bunch of systems. You can prevent that by adding in that 7-day check on PNPM, which basically means that typically most of these bugs get caught well within 7 days. So don't install anything new for its first 7 days. And that's what I've effectively done here, which is why it has that little check, right? So the rookie says, hi Sunny, is this suitable for beginners? Yes, provided you just take your time, and I'll show you some techniques that you can go ahead and do. So example, let's say you're a beginner, you come in here and you don't understand what this layout is. Command I right now, and you can just say, explain this layout, explain this folder layout to me. And this is really, I kid you not, this is what I would do if I was learning as a beginner right now. I'd go to a cheap model like Cursor Grok. And in this case, high fast, you can do whatever you want. I'm going to keep it on high fast. Explain this folder layout to me. And in this case, it's going to go ahead and quickly find the folder structure, and it will go ahead and explain it to me. And then if I didn't know what Next.js was, I would ask questions. Use it as a always on tutor. Like, don't go ahead and pretend that like, oh, I'm just not clever enough to do this thing. Guys, you have a perfect tutor, which was never possible before. Long gone are the days of being judged on Stack Overflow. Now you can come here and just ask as many silly questions as you want to an agent, and no one's going to judge you, right? So this is a great place to be right now, okay? So in this case, we can go ahead and ask a ton of questions here. Understand how you can even, for example, if you're inside a codex /side, I can start a side chat and I can ask questions at any point against this. Right, so this is a really good little tip in case you didn't know. Right now in the chat, if you didn't know about the /side tip, right, and hit the like button if it was something new to you, right? So over here we can see that in this chat, if I press Command E, I can actually change the entire view. So that way I can have agent focused view over here, and I can make this kind of full screen. Then I can press Command E to go back into my coding view, right? So I can do Command E to have like one view, which is more agent focused. Command E to go back into coding focus, right? So over here, let's see, the repo is a Next.js 16 app router with Sanity Studio embedded at the /studio. And then I can go ahead and ask follow-up questions. What does this syntax mean, right? Oh, it's optional catch-all, one file handles Studio, Studio Desk, Studio Vision, and any other Studio tools. Okay, like any question you have at this point, if something that makes sense, ask it. And it will literally, this is the loop you have to have right now, right? And this is, you'll be amazed. This is why kids are becoming millionaires overnight, because they're just not afraid to ask AI every single question that they can possibly have. The older we get, we tend to kind of get more rigid. I'm not going to ask this one. I can figure it out myself. No, ask the questions. And that's why in my community, I will always tell you guys, ask me a million questions in the coaching calls as well as right now. And if you want to be in a place like that and you like the way that these chats are going, then I highly recommend, again, join Zero to AI Hero, right? Go to the link in the description. Join this waitlist right now. As soon as we launch the doors every week in those coaching calls, it'll be like this. You can sit on a Zoom call with me right now in a group call, and you'll literally be able to ask me any single question you want, period. Right? That is exactly what you should be doing. And with AI right now, it's never been easier to have that flow, right? So let's start diving into exactly what it's doing here. The new clerk application has been created. Hey, let's go into our clerk dashboard and let's go and check it out. So if we go over to our, we see our app. So let's go ahead and do a refresh. I believe that was it there actually. So we can see Aero Desk flight booking. It created this for us. Amazing, right? So this has now been created for us. And you can see if I go into subscription plans, right now we're only on free. So this is proof that it's going to go ahead and actually go start setting things up for us, right? And now what I'd even recommend is you can actually look here. Look, these are all the CLI commands. Connect init the framework. So it's going to go ahead and actually init. So Command D. It's going to come in, initialize things. So inside of source, inside of our app, inside of our layout, we can be sure clerk provider was added. There you go, right? This is probably just because it hasn't installed a few things, but it will handle that on its own. And even here, we've got components. These are ShadCN components being installed already. We have Sanity already in the mix as well. Okay. So I always say that this is a learning opportunity as well. Even seeing what the agent does, how it works, how it gets your schema keys, and how it goes in and gets your configuration. So this is literally how it's going ahead and pulling. And then you can see, look, it's setting up our billing, right? Same for Sanity. In this case, for Sanity, it went ahead and installed a bunch of stuff. Now, let's go ahead and actually see where that is created. And you can actually tell that that was created because if we go to environment local, again, these are all private keys. I'm going to invalidate them all. So it's fine for me to show, but you should never expose your keys. But in this case, this actually created a real Sanity project, right? So otherwise it wouldn't have this. It went ahead and got that on its own. This is why it's so important to get those things set up in the beginning, right? And you see, we're not blindly letting this code, right? Yeah, we set a plan in place, but everything was calculated. Everything that we set it up initially to do was calculated, right? So we actually gave it, obviously I'm aware that it installed all these skills. I'm aware that it installed all of these components from ShadCN. This is all things that I wanted it to do from the beginning. I know exactly what it's doing right now, okay? And also one thing I'd recommend is here, we're gonna say commit at regular intervals. That makes sense. Right, and now what I like to do is command enter because I'm going to steer it, right? So I want to commit at regular intervals and think of committing as checkpoints. So think of rock climbing, right? When you're climbing up a wall, I'm going to stub into the wall every now and then. That's going to be my commit. That way, if I fly off the wall and I do too much damage, I'm not going to, fall from the top all the way down. I'm going to simply fall back to a previous clip, right? So that's what a commit does. It allows me to rewind in history back to a previous commit. So you never want to have just very small commits. You want to basically always have regular commits. And they typically are by feature, by bug, and that's how true software development happens. And by the way, even if you're coding by yourself, that's just as relevant, okay? I do it myself. I have commits. I have literally the entire software development flow by myself when I'm coding any side project, right? So we have a question here. What program is he using for programming the VS? No, this is actually Cursor. So it might look like VS Code because the original Cursor editor was a fork of VS Code. And if you click into Agents window, you might see the new Cursor Agents look, right? So in this case, that's one example. But over here, I like to have Cursor editor window open when I'm doing stuff, right? Because it gives you an idea to see, look, we've got firstly, again, that's not very good of a tag here. I would have probably given it a way better, be more descriptive in future commits, right? So again, you can go ahead and push a few little rules in the mix. Now, as you see your agent making similar little mistakes, right? What can you do to improve that? Well, here we have agents.md and we have claude.md, right? Well, typically a good little rule of thumb is always do this trick. So your claude.md just references your agents.md. It's a nice way to make sure that all of your agents just use one file as opposed to having to synchronize two. And then inside of the markdown here, you can actually put relevant rules here. So I can basically say, always be sure to be descriptive with git commits, okay? And basically I can just add bullet points in or whatever the case, but be very concise here. And you can get your agent to even update this. Now this means every chat, my agent will respect the agent's MD file. Okay, so that way it'll stop, little bad habits from happening and so forth. Okay, got future commit messages. We'll spell out the actual milestone, for example, feet, sanity, add private flight inventory schemas, atomic holes, embedded. See, much better. Okay. Now, the next step is, bro, can you suggest me some videos for data structure algorithms in JavaScript? Again, this is another thing, right? Even with data structure and algorithms and all this, why? Okay, my question to you is, look, why do you want to learn that? If you want to learn that because you heard it's a good thing to learn, good luck, dude, getting somewhere in today's world, because if the space is moving so fast, you're just going to learn a bunch of stuff which is going to be useless, and AI will probably do it better than you every single time out of 10, right? So there's plenty of resources. I have lots of resources for if you want to go ahead and do data structure and algorithms. But my main thing here would be why. Like, find your why. If you don't have a why and you just want to do it because you think that's the way to go, then yeah, get clarity is my biggest advice, right? Don't do something because you think it sounds like the right thing to do. Loads of people were stuck on MERN-stack for ages when it was so outdated, right? The rookie says, I have to pay for that, right? Cursor has a free, I think it has a free TAM plan, but basically if you don't want to pay for this, you can just use VS Code. And again, you don't need to have code editor. When I'm teaching, I like to show things like commits and so forth. That's why I tend to have this open, by the way, right? As well as like Git work trees and so forth. You can actually inspect a lot of things inside of here. My ideal thing would be if you want to become an AI engineer and you want to actually, do something real long-term with this field, you would benefit by understanding how code is structured, looking at it. And also, again, remember that self loop that we talked about, this one right here, where you can talk to the agent and get back feedback and so forth. It's a very good pattern to have with a code editor on the side. As opposed to here, you can see I can't really see much. Yeah, I can go into the code here and I can see files and people argue that that's enough. It's not. Right? Surely enough, if you click in here, this is firstly, it looks terrible. Right? I can't, for me as a developer, I don't like reading this. It's horrible. I will simply go here. I can do Command P, package JSON, boom, I'm in, right? And I can see basically what's going on. And if I highlight over something, I can, for example, check where this will go to Sanity. I can highlight over this. I can see I'm on the latest version. I can't do that on the other bit, right? Maybe they'll update in the future, but right now it's not there, right? Clerk/next.js 7.8. There we go. We're good. Right? I can look at the code myself. I can understand what is happening here. Clerk billing.json. Click into this. This is actually our C. This is going to eventually get pushed up to our CLI and basically help our CLI understand what's going on with the billing. Right. So in this case, look, got it. Future commits, updated file. It's doing our configuration right now. It's patching our billing in. So which means if we go over here, we go to billing subscription plan. Look at that, free and Aerodesk Pro. It done all of that through the CLI, right? So this is really why I want to kind of showcase to you. It can actually configure all of this on its own. It did this by itself, right? Just by having the correct access. I can code from my phone too. I'm gonna get it now. So with Cursor, you can, right? Now, my advice would be, Cursor is pretty damn awesome. I'll be honest. I use it a ton. I use all three. As transparent as I can be. I use Claude Code. I use Codex. I use Cursor. I also have like a local model. I also have Hermes model running with a bunch of agents we do for the business, running the business. So there's lots of different agentic things that we do. And that's what I'm going to be teaching inside the Zero to AI Hero, a brand new community. Again, link is in the description. But all of it really comes down to preference. And again, the space moves so fast. At one point, Claude was ahead of the game. Right now, I feel Codex is way ahead of the game. It really can shift in a minute's notice. So understanding each, in my opinion, is going to get you the most value. And plus, I truly believe every single one of you should be investing in AI right now, meaning investing in, like when I say paying a $200 subscription, I will happily say investing, because you do not understand. We are in a window of time, which is, we don't know how long this window will last, but for $200 subscription, you're getting thousands of dollars of usage back. So if you went direct to the API and tried to get the same amount of usage for $200, good luck. You'd get like a tiny amount of usage, right? Especially if you're on a high model. Now, with $200 subscriptions, that's why I pay for a $200 Claude code, $200 Codex, and a $200 Cursor subscription. Happily, because trust me when I say you can get so much output from that $600 investment every month, easily, the most easiest expense of my life. I will happily pay that without blinking, because you get so much back. So if you're on the fence and maybe, questioning, $20 subscription is okay, this. Again, really depends on your situation. But if you have the funds and you're spending them in silly places, reallocate and reinvest, because right now is a golden era to have access to these models and these subscriptions, right? Lucas says, do learn to program so that you know what you're even talking about. Do learn algorithms, data structures, so you understand how to actually build real things, not just tutorial apps. So do learn to program 100%. I would say do learn algorithms and data structures. So here's the thing, right? Algorithms and data structures, they have a place, but it really, there's a line, okay? So architecture, understanding how things can be basically not a problem at one user, and it can become a problem at 1,000 users even, or a million users. Understanding scaling patterns, understanding how data patterns can really kind of mess around with these things. I'll explain that in a second, right? So understanding all of these different things is very important. But understanding how a bubble sort is against something else like that, for example, dude, inflate your ego as much as you want, but it really will not have any relevance to when you actually code. I've been coding for 20 years, and I can tell you right now, I've not had to slap a bubble sort in to something in ever. Okay, so you just need to know how it actually applies. Like, how does it apply to your actual app? right? How did this, is this a thing that is going to affect the scalability of my app? How do I fix that thing, right? So like all of these things, and again, there's a wide variety here. I'm not disregarding data structures, but I find that far too often, everyone who spent time on leak code now, congratulations, AI can just beat you in like 5 minutes or like or literally 30 seconds. So that's my point. Spend it in the actual application. That's why the kids, like the founder of cow.ai is an absolute crazy millionaire right now, because the kid didn't ask too many questions, just ran around and he started building, right? Syntax says, bro literally is rich and he's telling us obviously, no, guys, honestly, it ain't like that. I've started from the bottom. Like you guys can be sure that when it comes down to this stuff, I'm just giving my advice when it comes down to like where to put things and resources. Because far too often, especially when I talk to students, they will happily spend, you know, money here, money there. But right now, AI is the most easiest investment you should be making. It's a no-brainer, right? It helps me run my entire business, right? And that means the software we build, the business, the way it operates, everything in the mix, right? The sales CLI is authenticated to the required personal account. So I'm creating a link in new era of this project now. I'll keep deployment until after local type test. Okay, so we'll say, for now, don't deploy the cell. Let's keep it local just because I'm live. We can do that afterwards. Okay. And then of course we want to get into the actual depth of the build. So in this case, we can see here, clerk, product, UI, designing the booking state and API flow, sanity data, defining the sanity array, object keys and mappings. And then we have clerk AI, refining the chat hook, typing and rendering. So effectively what we have here is 3 lanes. Okay. So we have lane 1. I'm going to start drawing as well now. So forgive me for my drawings, guys. We've got 1, 2, and 3. These are 3 parallel lanes that are running alongside each other with our agents. And you might be thinking, this is going to burn through so many tokens. What the hell is going on? But it really is efficient. I promise you that. It's actually very, very good. So if we do command, comma, go down to usage and billing, boom, I've only used 1%. That should impress you guys. I've used 1%, right? 1%. Crazy, right? So far. And again, that includes the entire plan, setting things up, 1%, right? Yes, 100%. When you build it, you need to learn it, else focus and build the app agrees. Yeah. And really, honestly, the best thing that you should be aware of the spectrum of what is in the space. Like, you know, understand that there are certain data structures, understand that there are certain ways to do things, and then start building an actual application. And then, trust me, naturally you'll run into a hiccup. And then when you have an app that's actually ready in front of a user, at that point, I would start asking human questions, right? Will this scale? Will this scale to 1,000 users right now? If not, explain to me why. All right, and then it explain to you a data structure. Your data structure is currently like this. It won't scale very well. Explain to me, all right? Teach me right now, right? And then again, I would literally be asking that question inside of a chat, right? And that doesn't, again, mean AI is 100% right every time, but it will start to give you direction. And that is the learning approach, which will be completely tailored to you, right? And that is what I recommend every single one of you do. Right, now let's have a look at what is actually being built behind the scenes. So if we go over to Git, and this is what I like to see sometimes, because sometimes in the chat, it doesn't look like much is going on, but over here we can see, okay, we got a lot going on, right? We've got the pages being built, the concierge page, we've got the pricing page being built, we've got API routes, we've got booking, confirm, hold, quote, search, availability. And again, you could do this. You could also do server actions, right? So Next.js has server actions. So understanding the difference between API routes versus Next.js's server actions, they're 2 different things, right? There are benefits to doing server actions as well, right? You can feel free to do either or. And then if we go over here, we've got the brand marks, okay? And then what I typically like to do here is I would look for, like this is honestly my opinion, what I would actually do, is I'll look for like kind of bad coding patterns. If I see a lot of repeated nested things inside of a, no, this is actually okay. If I go ahead and see tons of nested code. This is a structure. This is actually pretty cool. They're already customizing. Structure.ts is actually for the Sanity Studio. So how you can actually customize what is shown on that initial screen. So in this case, we'll have a flight catalog, booking operations, and then eventually we'll have the AI side as well. And this is the schema types. Okay, so it's actually doing quite a lot right now. And these are all, again, happening inside the sub-agent. So the Sanity data one right here. And you can see, look, what you see right here, agent updated. This is communication between agents. And this allows each of the agents to go ahead and basically work without crashing into each other. Okay? Quick little water break as well. The retention is solid today, guys. I really, really appreciate you guys. Absolutely awesome stuff. First platform milestone is committed. I'm doing an early integration pass now. So 3 parallel slices meet cleanly. Live clerk plan types and shared booking contracts before the remaining UI becomes too expensive to reconcile. So one thing I would definitely say that I have noticed is when it comes to testing, 5.6 SO is extremely test heavy. So don't get me wrong, it's good, but it's also kind of overkill, especially if you're building an MVP in the beginning. So if you're worried about token consumption, at this point, I would say don't extensively test with unit tests, etc. We can do that at the end. Okay, so see, like in the beginning, you can go ahead and do this. But you see, I'll stop the rolling test pass and focus on completing the inventory. Otherwise, what it can do is so it might look like it's initially, and there's a double-edged sword here, right? If it adds tests in, yes, it's effectively more robust. But what you're doing is you're adding in more layers to an MVP when you're just you haven't yet established if it looks right. You haven't yet established if it flows right. And then imagine we've got all this extra testing for something which we might just completely rip out entirely. So there is a balance between the two, but the decision comes down to, if you're worried about tokens, I would say probably skip the testing until like the MVP base is done. Then you can add in tests once you're happy with the UI, the flows and all that stuff, and test it yourself. That's the conservative route. If you don't care about tokens, you token max to the maximum, you want to use all your tokens every single week, then yeah, sure, let it fly. And again, once you find your preference, go to your agent's MD file and write it there, okay? And then your agent's MD file is going to be your source of truth. And again, this is how you can customize agents to work the way you like to work. Okay. So now we've got the three agents kicking off. So we've got the source haven't. Okay, so we appreciate you so much, Sonacode. Absolute G. Really, really nice energy, man. So clarifying conditions. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut the old build for a second. And what we can actually start to do is we can actually start to run this build. I'm going to do pm dev. Okay. Now, if we go over to package.json, you can actually see our start scripts. Now, it's added in a couple here: sanity, type gen, schema. Type gen is very important when you're doing sanity work, but because we have the skills installed, it knows how to do it, and that basically enforces type checking with TypeScript. But over here now, what we should be able to do is spin up our app. So if we go to our browser, I'm going to open up another one separate to this, and I'm going to go ahead and use this as our test area. So I'm going to do localhost 3000. Now, let's go to /. Right now, the app is not loading, so it hasn't been started up yet. So we don't have a page yet unless we have it inside here. Concierge pricing. Oh, so we actually haven't got our landing page yet, I don't believe. So it typically would be inside of, these are group layouts. So these don't actually count as routes when you can see the parentheses. So it'll just be /concierge, it's not /app concierge and so forth. Big Fat Panda, what's good? I appreciate you. Welcome to the stream. But yeah, give that a moment. It's still doing its thing. Okay. So let's come back here. And to be honest with you, a lot of the time you'll find that, now once you've got a plan like this in place, you kind of just let it do its thing and come back and check on it, right? Or what I would effectively do is once you've got an MVP or a base or a feature in place, then I would typically make it, again, this is a demo right now. We're running through a huge build right now, like from the ground up. But what I would effectively do is I'll have several chats all on different Git work trees, which are effectively local copies of the same directory. So that way they can basically work on the same files and not clash. And then the agents will have their own respective Git work trees. They can work on separate features. And then I want them to create pull requests back in. And speaking of GitHub and pull requests, let me know what you guys thought about the GitHub going down situation. So GitHub crashed recently. It was quite a big crash. And funny enough, Cursor happened to release Cursor Origin at the same time. So Cursor actually released Cursor Origin, which I thought was pretty cool because honestly, it was more of a funny thing saying that. But Cursor are definitely leveling up in that space because now, think about what that means. Cursor are trying to actually get like a full agentic flow here where you can host your code on there as well. And bear in mind, they actually support having mirrored GitHub copies. So you can actually import a Git repo into your origin, which is basically where Cursor want you to store the code. And then your agent has a lot more, I guess, connectivity or whatever benefits they want to have when they introduced Origin's feature set. Right now, it's kind of like just hosting, but soon, I believe they'll probably have, there's probably a big mission behind why they've introduced their own effectively GitHub system. Okay. But it'll be an agent first, I can tell you that. Vibe Salma says, coding your old projects by hand gave me a great sense of accomplishment. Building things purely with AI prompts just doesn't feel the same. I'm miswriting the logic myself, but I know this is the AI era. I totally get the feeling. I definitely understand what it used to feel. There was an era of coding where it was literally you earn every single inch of it. But now we're also in a great time where you can do so much. So rather than looking at it like we've been stripped of something, we appreciate what we did before. Take the kind of, the experience that you had before as like you having an edge against the rest of the coders out there, and instead learn how you can accelerate what you're doing right now, right? Authentication goes to SpaceX's acquisition of customers bring a lot of change. Yeah, absolutely, it's huge. Clerk Concierge says it's functionally complete, but I'm tightening one thing before committing it. The Concierge already injects Sanity Context schema snapshot, yet customer support answers also need a bounded way to retrieve the published FAQ or policy content. I'm checking the Authenticated Context tool survey and will expose only a support safe wrapper, never generic grok or operate. Okay, so here I might interrupt and actually say Sanity Context vector embedding. So what I want to do is I want to get it to set up this. So I'm going to say enable vector embeddings so our AI agents can better surface answers with sanity context. Okay, and we're going to push that in. So again, this is why you typically, like, I do tend to come in, keep an eye on it. A lot of time I could ignore it and come back, afterwards and check on things. But if you are like actively being in the mix, then you can go ahead and kind of do that. But look at this right now, sanity data, right? We went ahead and gave it a bit of information which is relevant to that agent. So in a second, we will see a message get sent to sanity data. I can guarantee it. Right now, it's just context compacting. So here again, once you hit around 80% full, it will automatically compact the context. And what that means is it will basically lose granularity, because think about it. You're taking 200,000 tokens. Imagine I've got a sentence, 200,000 characters long, and it explains how my day went. And then I basically summarized it into a 20th of its size, right? So I now shrinked it down into this many words. I can summarize what might happened in my day, but the granularity is lost. So every time you condense your context, be aware that yes, even though you're in the same chat, the agent hasn't got the granularity of the messages up here, okay? So it's just something you have to be aware of when you're working with AI, okay? So we'll give that a moment to do that. We can also flick on, fast mode if we really wanted to. So usage mode, look, we're only at 90% left, which is, you know what? I do find it kind of insane that like when I don't use fast mode, it's so efficient. Like it is unbelievably efficient. Like we've already done a huge amount of file changes and we only use 2% of a weekly usage. That is insane, right? If we go to Sanity.io dashboard, there's a dashboard, or it's just, let's click on, dashboard. We can see in a moment, I don't know if it's going to be deployed yet, but if we go to our Studio Snaps, it hasn't been deployed yet. So once it's pushed, we can see it in here. But no, it hasn't been deployed yet. We'll see it afterwards, right? But treating embeddings as retrieval structure, and you can see that now it sent the message to Sanity Data as well as Clerk AI, right? So inspecting Sanity Data set embedding skill. So it's going to have some relevance here, including reactive clerk billing pricing with use plans. So it's basically checking against if it needs to use that information there. And then, I do love Sanako's energy. He's absolutely awesome. Absolutely incredible guy. And this is really what our community is all about. Like we've got amazing members like Sanako. So we absolutely appreciate you. Me and Jay always talk about you guys. New embeddings layer will reuse the same closed publication content boundaries context. I'm checking Sanity's current data set embedding. And even on top of this, right, I won't bombard it right now, but we also need to do Sanity Agent Insights. So Sanity Agent Insights. And what this looks like is basically functions that will run. So it's part of our insights. Let's go here. You can see add insights to Sanity Context, right? It's basically classifications that run, and I believe in the free plan it's every hour, And then in the paid plans, it can be more granular. But this will run every single time. Oh, sorry, guys. You can basically add in a little kind of wrapper, Sanity Insight integration to our existing stream calls. And then we deploy this classification function. So for example, this function will run, I believe, where is the, I think we set that on the actual Sanity side. But if I show you an example here, we actually have it inside of our functions folder. This is the final code which you guys can get for free. Functions, classify conversations, and then you can see index. This is actually the classify functions. What's it called? Function call here. So classify.js. And then this is actually going to go ahead and run the entire classification, right? And again, I didn't write this. This was an agent that wrote it from the skills that was installed, and it basically can handle everything. It does the whole thing for us, right? So basically handles the entire classification, and you can get pretty granular even inside of here. So I believe, where's it gone? Just realized the music ended as well. Let me go ahead and restart. And today I might do the YouTube B-roll. I don't know if this is words or, I think that's words. We'll do Jay's picks today. So we got Jay's music. So smash the like button if you prefer his music over mine. I will not be offended. Right. So at this point, Sanity is currently CLI and all sessions are healthy, and the existing datasets report embeddings disabled. The checked-in projection now mirrors the context lattice. Repeats published is true per type. Expands no references. Here expands no references. So here I want to say include more information in the embeddings. We want to ask questions like, is this a seat? I want seat, window seats, or I want an aisle seat, and so forth. Again, you can be fuzzy with it. Fuzzy meaning it doesn't have to be perfectly written every time. The production dataset has completed this initial vector build and is now ready. I'm applying the identical protection to the private test dataset as well, so local integration behavior does not silently differ from the app's active dataset. Nice. Okay. Nice. So next up, what I want you to do is, I just want to check one thing, if it actually has my key here already. So I'm going to just double check one thing. So yeah, so two things happened there. Number one, it went ahead and populated all these environment keys. Again, these are special keys, you should not expose them. And two, my Vercel OIDC token. So what this token is basically I'm authenticated on the Vercel CLI. So I'm using the AI gateway, which is basically how we can have different access to different AI models through Vercel. And this token, I didn't generate it. It's a unique token that is generated on this CLI. And that's a secure way of working locally, which is actually a new pattern that's forming. So rather than getting API keys inside the dashboard, generating it, and then getting the key, you get an OIDC token, which is basically a token which I think it expires after a set duration, and basically is dynamically generated for you at the time you need it, which is a lot more secure than creating an API key, forgetting it ever existed, and then it could get leaked by that, and then that's basically used by someone else, and you're burning through that. They're burning through your money, for example, right? So embed seat semantics from the aircraft layout, seat label, cabin, window, aisle positions, accessibility row, and any seat features. Then add a bounded preference from where concierge tool. So I want window seats resolves against live availability. Nice. And again, all of this is happening inside of our Sanity agent. So I want to show you guys. Let's see if our Sanity tools are being created yet. So let's go to our, and we also got a seed. So it's going to start seeding in data. Pretty nice. All right, if we go over to, not this one, sorry. Source, apps, no, Sanity. And here we have our seed structure. Not structure, sorry. It's going to be our schema types. And then we go to index. We have our arrow desk. And arrow desk, we have right now a pretty big kind of overall layout in one file. So we have cabin seat, aircraft seat, segment seats. Everything is in one file here, which I mean could be neater. Could maybe like I would possibly put these into separate files, but you can go ahead and do a little refactor job afterwards. And if I hit save here, yeah, it's also prettified it. So yeah, that's much better. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to read like that. Cabin section, Yeah, so this is basically, and again, you can add validation inside of Sanity as well, which is quite nice. We have the context, but more importantly, I'm looking for, where is it gone? Lib client, server client. No, this is for giving the correct admin key access. It was for, what's this one? No. Okay, we'll find it afterwards. I'm effectively looking for our custom tools. So in Sanity, to be honest, again, what I would do here, come back, I'll do Sanity Context. And again, you can just read through this. Again, we've installed the skill. We can already give it this prompt as well. Follow the guide steps. And we've already done this. Modern API key, core components. We've got the agent with the context MCP. And it basically can go ahead and query against the Sanity dataset. And then we have the MCP endpoint, which gets generated dynamically once we publish our first Sanity Context document, which again, our agent handles for us. And then tools. Here we have it. So tools, connecting MCP, most agents use several over the course of a single conversation. Initial context, these tools immediately come with the MCP. And then we have custom tools, which are, it was connecting Sanity Context. And again, they have really nice documentation for everything. Like LangChain, Vercel AI SDK, OpenAI SDK, Agent API, generate and translate with AI APIs. And this is cool, agent actions, by the way. In case I'm not going to dive into this too much, but agent actions, you can actually have, for example, if let's say a piece of text went into one place, you can have it translate automatically in agent action. It was really nice, right? So at this point, we kind of got to wait for this. So I guess it's the ultimate time to ask me a question. So feel free to fire questions away right now. And then soon enough, we can go ahead and dive into things. C-aware model is now taking shape. A premium sheet can generally be both window and owl, so data keeps a primary display position. Nice. Okay. Cantal Cristal, what's up from Brazil? Good to see you. Let's have a look. Where's our page? Here we have it. Now we have our page. All right, and this has got the home content inside. Cool. So let's go ahead and do npm dev, and we should be able to run it locally. Okay. So. Hey, okay, so we've got Aerodesk, we've got DXB to London Heathrow, your next flight beautifully sorted, right? We have our drop downs, we can go ahead and flick them in between. Again, some styling quirks here to part one way, but these are things which we can completely change out afterwards, right? Again, things like this, you might want to have it, you can click this. So I would probably change these for some Shadcyan alternatives, right? And again, even these quite small, but again, UI is something which you can totally go ahead and do on your own. But in this case, we've got some preset default routes. So New York, Dubai to JFK, right? And it already pre-fills them. We can see that cabin, economy, one option found. It already found us a flight. So trip total already found the exact thing. And we can see that cabin, business, search flights. Let's go ahead and see. Was that the flight actually? So we can see all times local. Oh yeah, so you go. 5,000. So it needs to show a loading state ideally, right? Things like this we can go ahead and catch out. Let's select this itinerary and see how far it got right now. Choosing seats, right? Oh, very nice. So it shows us only the business cabin, which is quite cool. So in this case, 3A, and we can press maybe, okay, so 3A, and that's for traveler 1. And then we press return, 4K. So again, things like this, I would come in and I would audit, hold the seats and secure, and see how it goes on. And again, sign in to hold these seats to continue. Again, the user interface could be improved there, right? When we get to this point, maybe I should have prompted the user to install or to sign in already. But at this point, sign in, right? So this is going to use clerk sign in to go ahead and authenticate. Boom. Let's go ahead and sign in. So I'm just signing into my account, doing a little bit of authentication. And then give it a moment. Okay. Continue. And what we can see is it. Yep. So, okay. So in that case, yeah. As you see, if I had to sign in, maybe I wanted to keep that flight page. So these are things that I would test, right? But let's say, for example, we want to go again. Let's just book this economy one, select the itinerary. Happy with that. Let's go ahead and do it. Look, economy is a much bigger plane, right? So a much bigger set of seats because obviously business, you get a bit more space. And let's go ahead and do this one. And it should really be after I select a seat, maybe it shows me like a fixed thing. So in that case, I've selected my seats, go to next. This is going to secure the seats and we should have some form of hold. Okay. So who is traveling? So in this case, we can say Elon Musk, date of birth. Let's go ahead and pop in just some old date. I'm going to put anything here from over there. There you go. And then continue to payment. And in this case, simulated payment only, right? So at this point, I can just say Elon Musk, and then we just put in some example payment number. I understand no real charge for me. Right, it's a simulated booking. All right, complete the simulated booking. All right, and again, this could be completely done in many ways. Stripe checkout, whatever you want to do. You're cleared for takeoff. Boom. Right. So we've got this now. Let's have a look if it saved it. View my flights, and inside of my trips, we can see we have a flight. Okay. So first things first, pretty damn cool, right? But the more important thing is I want to see the AI part, right? Can we get AI to book that entire flow, which is pretty complex, right? So if I go to the membership tab or the concierge, if I try to go concierge, it will throw me to membership, right? Which probably, again, not the best UI, right? Maybe on concierge, you should say you need to upgrade and so forth. But now you can see, look, I can go to monthly or annual, and this is all custom now, right? So I can actually go ahead and choose pro annual, and you see this pop up all again through clerk billing. Clerk billing handles everything, including test payment, right? So let's go ahead and do pay with test card. Now continue, and I should have access to concierge. So I come over to concierge and it did no longer kick me out, right? So in this instance, we've got a page for concierge. You can have it nested, whatever you want to do. And we've got some preset questions over here. So I want to see here, well, again, this is still working, right? So really it might not be fully working yet, but this is literally still coding out the solution. So find a DXB to London Heathrow flight, right? And it says Aero is thinking. And this is where we have our custom short. What's your departure date, one-way trip, cabin, and number of adult travelers. So in this case, we can say departing tomorrow. Let's just say before 12 midday. And then we can say round trip, DXB to London. And then we can say business for 2 people. And you see how I can talk like very, very kind of, I can help with that. Please provide departure dates. So again, even here, departure dates, right? So tomorrow. So you see like this, not very good, right? This would be recognized as a gap when we ran Agent Insights, right? So we can say tomorrow, departure, return is 2 days time, and LHR is correct. And now you can see there's a gap here. See, confirm the exit. So this would be horrible. I would not use this. Right? I would probably get so annoyed with it, I'd kick it off, right? So that's a prime example of a gap. Now, this is where Agent Insights would identify that really nicely inside of the Sanity dashboard, okay? So of course, we haven't set that up yet, but that is something that we will do, right? So in this case over here, you can see localhost. Let's go to localhost/studio, and we'll come to this page right now. Now, you would authenticate with your first logged in Sanity account. So in this case, it will be my personal account that I've logged in with Sanity, or whatever one you've created. And then you can see I am now at the Sanity Studio, right? So again, free upgrade because I used my coupon. And then you can see that flight catalog, booking operations, AI context boundary, okay? So first things first, we go to flight catalog. We can see lots of things here, well, quite a lot, right? So in this case, you might want to, you can restructure all of this, but we can see all the different airports, airline, we can see the booking operations. So we can see booking draft. Let's go to route, right? Or flight instance. This is probably the individual flights. And again, how you structure this is completely up to you, okay? So we have flight instances against specific routes. So in this case, let's go into a flight, and then I guarantee this is going to be connected to a route. So we have flight number, airline, takes a specific route, has an aircraft specific layout, so 787 Skyline, right? It's actually got Boeing, that's pretty cool. And we've got scheduled, available to customers, and AI. Okay, so we've even got a little gate there as well, right? Now what we don't see here is Agent Insights, so we're gonna have to configure that. And the AI context boundary, what we should be able to see here is an MCP at the top. And this means that Sanity, yep, there you go. This is Sanity Context, right? This is the MCP that gets exposed. And it gives us the name of the agent, the slug, the context filter. So it's basically saying, make sure it's not in drafts, it's only published. The type is airport, airline, aircraft layout, or any of the following things, right? So basically only respond to this information. Use only publish arrow flight catalog policy FAQ. And even here, look at this one. So I'm going to say always use the relative date. Supporting customer inquiries. Supporting customer inquiries. Oh my God. Supporting customer inquiries if they say, for example, I want a flight tomorrow. You should use today's date as the reference point, right? So obviously, if I wanted to go ahead and update that, typically in the past, I would have to go to my system prompt. I'd have to redeploy my agent and everything. And you see here with Sanity's context, we don't have to do that. We simply publish. And now I come over to my agent and I can simply continue a conversation on. So now if I was to say, let's do a restart the chat. And let's just say, get me a flight tomorrow from Dubai to London. And then let's see, what exact departure date do you mean? So again, this is something we have to fix, right? So tomorrow. So the reason why it's not got today is because it's basically not injecting the right context, okay? So what I would do here is I would go ahead and I'll screenshot this example. I'd go over here and I would go ahead and even then you see like it's actually going ahead and screenshotting and checking its own things, which is very cool. Here I would actually say, we need to inject the time zone. So relative requests can be served with ease. And I will go ahead and pop that in. All right. And then that's basically, and then also you can go ahead and actually inject not only things like the what's it called? The time zone, but you can also inject the customer data. So I would even go ahead and as far as saying, in addition to injecting the time zone, it would also be really cool to inject the user's information. So that way the AI's response can be personal back to the user, such as they're speaking back with referencing their name and so forth. And even just by having access to the email and so forth, it can make the booking a lot quicker. You see? So you can actually inject all of these things into the system prompt. Okay, now heading back over to the code, let's have a look at where this is happening. So if I was to go ahead and type in system, do we have a system prompt? This is firstly. So system, well, there's lots of skills here. So there's a couple of ways we can actually exclude. We can say .agents, .claude, we can say agent files, and then, okay, so you see that? That's how we can basically kind of have like a nice little way of kind of, checking things out. So let's have a look. So, and again, if you want to see where it's basically set up, we can actually do a side conversation. If I do /side, I can say show, or even then we can do a side conversation, or you can go ahead here and just Command I and say show me where Sanity agent is configured. And again, I would use a fast model here. So I'm using a very, very fast, simpler model. Right? And then now I've got different agents for different purposes. So again, how your workflow tends to evolve is really down to what works for you. So that's really, there's no real right or wrong way here. It's just the plan, like the concept and the way we approach the problem and the solutions that we did to solve it. The agent lives in a few places: Open a Studio plugin, Context document, and Concierge wiring next. Okay. So we can see now, look, we've got the Studio plugin, right? Number one. So if we go here, we can actually see that we've got the structure, vision tool, context plugin. This is very, very nice, right? So insights enabled. We want to actually enable this one. So let's just and say enable insights and handle everything to make it work. Okay. And it has access to the skills, so it can go ahead and do that as much as it wants, right? So persistent intention outside, so insights are disabled. No, we want to go ahead and enable that. Right. And then we've got the structure, which is basically the layout. Then we've got the context document. This is for importing. But you can see importing here, we set up initially with a base instruction here. However, our source of truth should be the instruction on the document itself. The source of truth for the system prompt for the agent should live inside of Sanity. So that way, any member of the team can log into the studio and update the instructions whenever they need to. So we can pop that in, and now you can see we can shift it from here. This is, again, you can have instructions, by the way. This is the initial context document that gets seeded in. So it's actually already done this. I kind of got it mixed up, but it's always good to know exactly. And I wouldn't know, they could have been set up wrong, but either way, you want to have sometimes a coded kind of system prompt and then append the instructions to that system prompt. So that way, say your product team came in and accidentally made a mistake and wiped out the entire prompt, the coded system prompt would always make sure that it didn't, talk about anything, right? It should only talk about aero bookings and so forth, right? Also, another issue, whenever you see unknown or any, I would always call this out. So just a word of wisdom, right? Even here, we got the context. So here we have safe context grok filter. So this is that filter we talked about previously, right? This allow list is deliberately closed. Operational and user specific types are absent. Drafts are excluded and only explicit published documents become visible to the context MCP. Right? So again, just safeguarding. Runtime wiring, so the app actually running the agent. So here we can see, here we have our route. So let's go ahead and have a look. Get initial sanity context. Right, so fetches only a sanity context pre-computed schema context. It deliberately does not expose the MCP grok or mutation tools to the production agent. Right, so again, all these things, you can go ahead and ask question after question after question and dive into things as you need to. But the point is that you see, this is how you can kind of get your answers if you're ever confused. Right, there's no longer need to be line by line on the code and doing every single thing. You should be focusing on, am I solving the problem, and what is this solution actually adding to the build? Right, that's the route ownership model. I'll make the publish sanity.agent context document in Studio. The edit will source true for errors, row, tone, workflow, relative date behavior, personalization, and response guidance. Yep, that's actually much better. Okay. Now, after that, we can go ahead and check, help me choose seats. So in this case, if we said, for example, yeah, I want to wait until it actually has that fixing, because no one's going to say exactly by date. Right, especially when you're talking to an agent. 2 hours down to the build, 2 hours into the build, if I'm not mistaken. Smash the like button, guys, and subscribe. Yeah, absolutely crazy, guys. Really nice retention there. I can see the curve on the viewership is just going straight up, which is absolutely awesome. And we're actually doing really well on the build progress as well. So, oops, what have I done there? If I go back to Aerodesk, you can see here, we can actually see a real booking workspace. Yeah. So London, Sydney, we can see Sydney flight. Let's go ahead and do first class. And let's just do, for example, 3 adults. I want to test something. So first class is actually, if we go to search flights now, when it's loading, it doesn't show me. But in this case, yeah, first class tends to be damn expensive. Select the itinerary and then boom. You see how it's, and look, we even have disabled access. That's very, very cool, right? So it's even added in that. First begins, first ends, right? And we've got the different travelers. So we can say these individual travelers are going to take up all these rows. And then on the other way back, they're going to take up these 3. Hold seats and continue. And you can see, look, perfect. And then we have individual traveler names. Nice. Very, very good. Pre-filled mine. So we can say Jay, Rathorn, and then, sorry, Jay, Elon Musk. And then we can go ahead and just give in date time. Right now, I'm just going to say everyone is like 1 day old, right? Obviously, it's not right. And you should have maybe an 18-year-old check or whatever the case. Continue to payment. And then, of course, here, I'm just going to complete a simulate. Let's just do blah, 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 blah. I don't think this is going to check properly, but this is a dummy payment. Damn it. Okay. Okay. So 33K, very, very expensive flight. You're cleared for takeoff. Boom. We have all of our seats as well as the allocation for those seats. And then pretty nice, right? View my trips. And here we can see the travelers themselves, the actual booking saved to your account, right? So of course, if you wanted to dive into this, you can actually go ahead and you have access to the data, right? So of course, this is going to be inside of our studio somewhere. So if we go into our flight booking operations, we can see bookings. We can see individual passengers, I believe, as well. So booking, we can see individual bookings. And again, this is where your ops team can come in and go ahead and check things out. So in this case, we've got the flight IDs, individual flight IDs. We've got the flights themselves. So these are actually linked to those. Oh, it's coding, right? So our agent's changing things up. That's why it's happening. I'm using this all okay. The prompt split is now explicit. Sanity controls everything editors should be able to tune, while the small code the kernel prevents studio edits from bypassing clerk, exposing. Yeah, exactly. See, small code kernel, right? This one right here. If we ask in the side chat, where is small code kernel located? Right? I'm just showing you guys what you can really do here, right? In a side chat now, exposing personal identifiable information to the context or inventing bookings. Insights will store chat turns in the private data set and so forth, right? Nice. Concierge agent folder. And now it contains, so we can see agent line 156. Where was it? 156. So initial C, the document is defined here, but then the actual hard-coded line on line 139. So get concierge instructions. So in this case, I'm going to look over here. Oh, and let's go over here. And we have our lib. So in this case, we go down. Let's actually check out the route. So you see what it's actually doing is gets the initial context and it gets the concierge instructions. But here, request concierge instructions. A short encode keeps the concierge safe and usable. And where are our concierge instructions query? So this one right here. Here we have it. So in this case, it's just making sure that it's accessing only what it should be accessing. But really, there would be another bit where we can go ahead and dive in a bit deeper into it. But yeah, again, you can just go back and forth with this. Really, you can ask it, you can go back and forth. There's no point. Like the main thing is I want to show you is a side chat that you can do there, which I thought was quite nice. Now, if we go over back to this, and we're gonna have to wait until it's done. So we have a quick thing here. My app hit 3K per day revenue consistently. Nice, dude. Over the last 3 days, well, I don't know what to do. How do I get 10K per day? Well, firstly, amazing. Let us know the name of the app. And secondly, he goes, I doubled my prices when I was stuck at 1K per day. And now I'm here, but I can't double my prices again. Firstly, what kind of app are you building? That's absolutely awesome, though. And also, yeah, a very good question from Sonny. Why not add more value to what you already offer first? So we need to know what is the value that you're adding inside your app. So no, once our ownership issue, as normal seed must never overwrite. This is more like seeding issues. But if we see our sub-agents, let's have a look. So we've got 3 sub-agents back to work, designing one-time prompt migration script. Sanity Arch, let's have a look. 2 concurrent users holding the same seed, exactly 1 succeeds. Multi-C and round-trip hold conflict, no partial C changes. And this is what I like, right? The models now are really getting to a clever point where they stop all of these things. I remember when we built a Ticketmaster sort of clone, where basically we had to handle all of that with event-based architecture. That is the kind of data structure and algorithms that I would say you need to know about. That kind of stuff, like know that like event-based architectures versus like sequential and so forth. Like they're different things, right? So in this case, implement concrete context flow browser and a time zone sent on every request. Nice. So that way, yeah, that's actually pretty good. So UTC fallback. So if we look in the code, I want to see here, and go to concierge. So in this case, look, you see this, you are the authenticated. So build instructions, context section, initial context. If it has it, then we'll go ahead and pop this in. Profile section. Yeah, if it has it, I'll pop this in. Otherwise, it gives nothing. This is a safe way of nullifying. Editable instructions. And then we've got this afterwards, whereby, yeah, editable instructions go here. And this is basically going to, okay. Non-negotiable application security kernels. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. This is like the hard-coded thing which can't be changed. Even if your product team came in and basically deleted everything in the Sanity Studio side, this one prevents your users from like misusing it. Right? Identity and pro come only from verified clerk session. Never accept requests. So this is like the safety layer, right? So I would always add this in, right? And then we even had, what was I checking before? Where did it go? I was looking at something. So, oh yeah, IANA. That's it. So IANA. So where is it? No, that's a test. Use that. No, concierge agent. So the server compute JSON uses the validated I in the time zone temporal context. Temporal typically refers to the like time, basically, or like, you know, the location, time, all of these things. So request time context, create concierge agent. Where is this one called? So, oops. Let's have a look. This one is called over here. And temporal context is passed in get concierge temporal context past data time zone, and this is in a route, which means it's getting it from the API, the server side. And you can see like validated time zone, it gets the time zone, and the time zone is initially passed in here, and passed is from the body of the request. Okay, so basically it's getting it from the request. So this will be the request that was sent from the client. So you see, understanding how to read code like that is important, because you need to understand how you can go through the code base, understand what the hell's going on, and that actually has a big impact, right? Especially when you're building something and you need to debug what's going on. You can't every single time be like, AI, go find that thing. It will try its best, but you should know what's happening. So Sanity Context 1, convenience layer, AI. So this is something that I had when I was building the first time. There is like a discrepancy between AI SDK 6 and 7, but it can actually get around that, right? Or you can force one or pin a model and so forth. Sometimes they have these mismatches, but again, by the time you probably build this, it may not have this problem in the picture, right? They probably update it by that point. Verifying prompt. Okay, so let's give it a try in the background. Oh, we can't because of this. Bind telemetry integration. What's that? So. So what could be happening here is we have to simply restart the app. Yeah. Sometimes with a few changes like that, we have to go ahead and completely do a restart. Okay. Now back in here, we do have agent insights in the picture now. And let's have a look. Let's close that out. Okay, yeah, so they need to enable this. So that's something which our agent will probably do. SAI context boundary. Let's have a look at that Sanity Context document that's been published, again, which shows us the MCP that our agent can connect to. And by agent, I mean the agent inside of our deployed app. So here we have the instructions, we have the types, okay? Now, let's go ahead and check out the actual booking operation. So, concierge, I'll say, I need a flight tomorrow to London, business class for 3 adults. And ideally, let's make it window seats. Okay, oh, this is all happening because of the Sanity Context. Okay, so you know what, actually, that's actually because of that version mismatch here. So I'm gonna pop this in and throw that. And again, what I like to do a lot of the time is I tend to interrupt it a lot, especially with Codex, right? It reproduces the same failure, convinces that but still imports an AI SDK while error desk is on. I'm removing that incompatible adapter now and keeping context insights through it. Supports safe conversation primitive with an AI SDK 7 native integration. No downgrade. Okay. I don't look at lines of code. Seems like that's the old slow way of working. Yeah, to be honest, again, the main thing is I think you should be able to read code. You should be able to understand, like, okay, so if I was to dive into any random file right now, right? This to me is pretty much okay. But what I'm scanning for a lot of the time is if I see nested, like loads of nested code inside of things. And what you really want to know is concepts like KISS, dry, you know, like don't repeat yourself, dry principle, KISS, keep it simple, stupid, right? All these kind of things, they're just kind of easy, hacky ways. And what you can do is if you have never heard that before, do Command N, start a new chat, say, explain principles like KISS and dry to me as a developer. Assume I am a beginner and tell me more principles just like this, right? And now, watch this. Now we're going to have a little lesson while everything's going ahead and doing this thing. And these are things which you can basically give an agent and fresh agent a refactoring run through your code. Okay, so I do recommend you need to do this, right? Keep it simple, stupid is very important because a lot of the time it might do some crazy stuff like this, right? Or again, that's not that bad, but you shouldn't have nested ternaries, right? That's a bad coding pattern, right? This is a lot more simple to go ahead and follow, right? So simple if conditions, right? Again, do they both work? Yes, but keep it simple, right? When you violate it, nested ternaries, premature design patterns, config systems, form value. exactly, yeah. I love that joke. He goes, "Hey Claude, who is Jason and why is he everywhere in my code?" That is funny. All right. Dry, don't repeat yourself. Every piece of knowledge should live in one place. And this is, I see this so much, and it's the first giveaway that someone has no idea what they're doing, right? And basically it could be either when you repeat things over and over again, or it could be, for example, like you see, like we might have a repeated calculation, or it could be literally if you have nested, like say if I have copy and pasted chunks of code like past time, right? That should be refactored into a reusable lib or util folder, and then I can call it elsewhere, right? The same with types, all of this stuff. Yagni, you aren't going to need it. Don't build features, options, or abstractions you don't need today. So keep it very, very simple. A lot of the time AI will run, right? Single responsibility principle, right? SRP. You have separation of concerns, right? So keep different kinds of work in different places. But the single responsibility principle is very important, actually. A file or function should only do one job, right? So if I look at a file or a function, that function should not be doing 10 things inside of it. They should be doing one thing. And if it needs to do something else, we have another function for that. And basically they should all call each other, but it shouldn't be like one function does a million different things, unless that is the job of the function and it calls other functions, right? And so forth, okay? So like really good examples. And this is really how I'd recommend you guys go ahead and learn. Fail fast. If something is wrong, blow up early and clearly, right? Principle of least surprise. You got loads of them. Boy Scout rule, primitive optimization, composition. There's honestly loads. Solid, right? So single responsibility principle, open, closed, add new behavior without rewriting old working code. List-of subclass must be usable wherever the parent is. We're not really class-based coders anymore. It depends on what language you're using. Python, I guess, but interface segregation, don't force callers to be, again, more on the class-based coding. And if you're still doing class-based coding when you're using TypeScript, no, don't do that. You want to switch to functional pure coding, right? The compatibility fix is now clean under TypeScript, and then I'm using the install Sanity Context insight scans for the remaining external setup. Nice. Classifier secret will be stored only in Sanity's function environment, never in the blueprint or repository. And I'll keep the cell up again. And again, a blueprint is actually for Sanity's deployment. So if you type in Sanity blueprint, again, it knows how to do this based on its skills that we installed. Blueprint replaces one-off changes in the web interface with a declarative workflow. You describe the resources you want in a blueprint file, sometimes called the manifest. You keep it in the repository alongside your application code. When you deploy, Sanity compares the file against what already exists and makes reality match it. If it's not in the blueprint, it's not deployed, right? So basically, it's going to be effectively, I always consider blueprints as architecture files. So in this case, we got blueprint. Yep, we do. And this is responsible for our functions, which are the classified conversations, right? So in this case, this one is going to be, has a timeout of 600. It says what environment it runs in, node 24, and time zone. I'm just wondering that when it shows the Aerodesk Insight schedule, so we can see, okay, this is the cron job it runs on, right? So this is how you can deploy it as well. Atava, I appreciate you so much, guys. Sunny and Jay are both goats. I appreciate you so much. Yeah. And so are you guys. Honestly, the community is absolutely incredible. You guys are awesome, man. All right, the dry run caught a Sanity plan limit before anything was deployed. The accounts permit hourly scheduled functions, not every time. Yeah, so if you're on the free plan, just know that you get hourly scheduled functions. Whereas if you go up in plans, you can have more granular if you need it. Okay, now, next, let's go and see if the app is running at least so we can. Okay, so let's go ahead and say find ADXB on here profile. And again, here I don't even think I've included human in the loop elements, right? So we can say tomorrow, round trip, 3, 4, let's just say 3 adults, biz class. What return date would you like? For reference, tomorrow is, okay, so again, even the language here might not be so silly, but you can do that. Tomorrow round trip, we can say, tomorrow departure, come back in 4 days. Errors thinking, searching live flights. Nice, we've got the tool calls. I checked business class and there aren't any non-stop currently. What would you like to try? I would say, show me available flights. Obviously, that's because we haven't seeded enough data, right? No outstanding non-stop flights in the current catalog for your selected trip. Show me flights for a 4-day trip anywhere. Let's have a look. I can do that. Should I keep your previous one departing tomorrow? No, I'm flexible. So imagine this is the kind of chat that you could be very beneficial with an agent. Right. And also, what should I use is just departure date. So let's go ahead and say, for example, Dubai, flexible on everything, but has to be 4 people. And this is where really the benefit an agent comes out. All right. So in this touch, I still need departure date, for example, anytime. Yeah, anytime in next 2 weeks. Fine. Let's have a look. So I can see departures from blah, 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 but flight search requires specific cabin for each search. Please give me. So even things like this is a content gap, right? So but the flight search requires a specific destination and cabin for each search, right? So we could add a tool now to cover that gap, right? But in this case, give me more. So any destination, check all, and also let's just say economy. In this case, it should hopefully go and check. I can search live price with it. I don't have catalog wide all destinations. See what I mean? So this is where a content gap would be identified. And then you get frustrated. Oh, this is useless, blah, blah, blah. Right? But let's just say, for example, London. Okay. Now, let's see if it searches. And now it's searching for live flights. Right. And they've done it in parallel, which is quite cool. Right. Again, that would be a moment where I could be like, oh, let's make a tool where I can search several flights instead, right? Currently no outside, and this is probably because I haven't seeded enough flights, right? Check for 1 day travel instead of 4. Concierge interrupted. This is because likely I've got changes going on. Yeah, see, we just changed something, right? So it's probably just killed the concierge. Okay. Anyway, but either way, we can see, let's have a look at my trips. Let's see if we can check an existing trip. Ask me for my booking reference. Again, even here, we shouldn't show that, ask for my booking reference, right? But if we wanted a booking reference, just go ahead and say, boom, do this one. Check my flight. Let's go ahead and see. Looking up your trip, done. Your booking, confirmed. Amazing, right? Which class? Let's go ahead and see, can it answer that? Class and booking on first class, any window seats. Checking the seat map. Amazing. Let's have a look. I can see, but available don't label the position window aisle seats. Okay, so in that case, see again, another content gap. So this is really where Agent Insights will come into real power, and you can go in. And this is what I recommend you do. Remember, it's not just about coding up, an agent. It's about actually getting the insights from it, right? So in this case, we've got the conversations down, but we haven't triggered the analysis or classification function yet. But we can already start seeing the actual conversations coming through, which is quite nice. Now, there are some additional things that we can do here. So we can also say, I want to go ahead and add in a couple of widgets as well. So, things like flight tickets and so forth, as well as human in the loop moments and suggested responses. So feel free to analyze the last couple of conversations and see what you can do to help improve things, including tools, suggested tools that could be added to simplify the content gaps. This is what I would recommend we do, right? And again, this is really the things that can make such a huge difference. But because it has access to it, I don't have to think so deep about it, right? The main thing here is you saw at no point did I have to once think about vector embeddings. All I had to do is set it up initially, and now vector embeddings are handled regardless. So if I was to change any piece of data here, vector embeddings get updated the second that data is changed. Or if it's a batch update or many changes are happening at once, then it will go ahead and do it in a batched update. But I don't have to think about vector embeddings, which is a totally different situation, right? You have to also set either the Vercel AI gateway or the Anthropic key, but it will tell you exactly where you need to do that. So even here, just as I said that, it found API keys, right? So Vercel AI gateway, API keys create. So it's actually creating one of the keys and setting it for me, I believe. Any questions, guys, as we continue on? But we are almost, I think we're actually at a very good pace today, because we've actually done an awesome job here. And there's so many things you can do. You can customize all of this. You can customize the entire UI. Again, the agent is completely primed to do that. And also how you choose to present this agent chat, you know, if you want to have it fixed, so that way it's not like, you know, constantly scrolling down like what I'm seeing right now. And how we had in the original demo, again, you can do that. If we went ahead and do a, for example, a flight, let's go ahead and find a flight here. Check every seat. There you go. Right. Now hold seats and continue. So if we went to do Dubai to London, Friday, September 4th. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. So September 4th, right? Let's go ahead and say hold seats and continue. Dubai to London, September 4th, search flights. And now you see, I held that seat. So if I go to that same one, you see how it's held? Hey, look at that. That's exactly what I wanted. All right, amazing. If I go back, go ahead and check this. Boom, still held because it's got a hold on that seat for 10 minutes now, right? So if you detected that this user already had a hold, it would be really beneficial to add that in here. So again, these are all flows that you have to consider when you're building apps, right? But the main principle I want to show there is that it actually blocks out the seat, which I thought was kind of cool, right? Now going back over, let's go and see. Let's go. So refining the cell key extraction. So it's going just basically, and then you go look. It's trying to find the. It's going to set the Anthropic key for us if it can do it, based on the fact that it has CLI access. Removing unused Anthropic API key. And we also have 3 agents still remaining. The private insights credential is now attached with $1 monthly gateway budget and was never printed or written to disks. So it created a insights credential with $1 gateway budget, so that way it doesn't go crazy. Next, I'm promoting the legacy context instructions to the complete studio-owned prompt in production test. Migration is revision guarded and will preserve any team. And that's actually going to be the new update that we wanted for the, remember this? So when we go to AI context boundary over here, so now once it's promoted, we should be able to have quite a bit more information at this level. So we'll see that afterwards once it goes ahead and pushes the update context prompt. So this is a script that is running now to perform a migration to go ahead and give our agent basically upgrade this. So that way we got a lot more information at this level that is customizable from any member of the team, right? So, okay, so it's actually given, so it has done the instructions here, right? So it actually included it here. So content your arrow. So we have source ownership and tool routing. So again, it's explaining a lot of the tool calls. Do you have to always explain the tool calls? Not necessarily, but it will always help if you have a bit extra, right? AI context boundary. Let's have a look. I think it's added in a few. Yeah, it's basically just giving it a more in-depth instruction. Prompt migration currently refused to mutate the CLI under the read-only server right credential already exists locally. So my data migration should use that credential when explicitly loaded without printing it. It's very clever how it can actually figure out what it needs and do it. Honestly, it's quite mad time we're in. So we've got these agents now. I mean, bear in mind, we've had 7 agents that are finished off and we've got 3 active, right? If I do command, comma, go down to usage and billing, here we can see like 87%. Guys, it's only used 5% of my weekly usage. So I hope this is kind of giving you a real insight into if you do the plan correctly with the right skills, with the right MCP, with the right plugins and everything set up in the get-go, and you have a plan, you guys can see that is a crazy amount of coding, and all it took was 5% of my usage. So this is why I always say when people burn through tokens, chances are you're doing something very, very silly. Like and it's not your fault. It's a very common thing. The more you use this stuff, the more you slowly learn about it. But again, that's what we're here for. That's what we teach inside our community, how to go ahead and use those tokens way more smartly, right? Even if we dive into the code right now, I was going to go ahead and highlight something. Look at this. We have 52 changes. We go into the graph, right? There's tons of development that's happened right now. So look, There's a huge amount of insertions here. And we had, every now and then we had a ton more features in the mix. And throughout all of this, all it took was 5%. And this is one of those situations where imagine you have a client, right? A client, for example, and again, it's using GPT-5.6 Terra for the insights model, which is actually not a bad shout. I mean, you can use Luna if you really want to go cheaper on it, but, and depends. Remember, if your payment model, so your pro subscription for your members was, made sense to give it a stronger model, then you could do that. Otherwise, pretty much that's probably a decent model to actually throw in it, or Sonnet 5, for example. But imagine you have a client and your client is giving you a software task, something to build. See how the planning process is so important. If you understand how you can approach, for example, there's a million ways to approach building an AI agent, right? But the reason why I would recommend Sanity Context now a lot of the time is because it provides more than the straight to the eye solution. Because what you're getting out of the mix is you're getting Sanity Studio, which means that by default at the back end of things, you've got an entire separate protected app which can be deployed at the same URL or on a separate Sanity hosted URL, right? If you just do Sanity deploy, it'll do that for you, right? You can have all of that set up, and then that way they can manage everything without the need of a developer, right? All secure, all publishable, all unwindable. So you can see a complete change log of everything that's happening live by default by using the Sanity Live snippet of code. And on top of all of that, you can get vector embeddings living right alongside them through one CLI command, which your agent can set up for you, which we did today. You can get agent insights, and then you can build your entire AI agent off the back of that information. So now through Sanity Context MCP, you can basically give your agent the complete understanding. So it understands your entire schema, how to navigate it, all of the tools that it can use to go ahead and understand and get the initial context. Then you can provide it with custom tools on top of that, so it can then go ahead and do useful things like booking flights, retrieving details, anything that you want, as well as making sure that you get the right protection at the right levels. For example, never giving users sold out flights, right? Because you're combining hard grok filters and queries with semantic meaning. So that way you get the best of both worlds. And then of course that is all filtered out before it even reaches the agent, which means the context is a higher quality. And that is really why this is where things come down to, like me showcasing it's not about understanding line by line code anymore. It's understanding what options we have to our disposal, what tools we have to implement them, the correct ways to implement them with low usage as you do it, because that's the efficient way of working. And then of course, once it's rolled out to production, how can we go ahead and, for example, make a change if we need to make a change? Do I need to redeploy things? No, that allows us to do it all. And then again, once it's done, how can I get insight into what is going on, right? So once my agent is out there, it's almost done as well. So in this case, it's just modifying the concierge. That's why we see a little bit of a concierge widgets here changing. So I mapped the biggest conversational gaps to 3 UI bridges: flight results that expose a clear check seats action, seat suggestions that require an explicit user choice, and a final protected checkout checkpoint that states exactly what will and will not happen. I'm checking the current AI elements contract before implementing those interactions. Right? Really nice. So that would be one of my ultimate tips, by the way. The way we went ahead and implemented that, I told it to go and actually check the previous conversations. The production context prompt is now full 5,000 character studio managed version in both dataset and the deployed classifier included boundaries. And the deployed classifier includes bounded retries, stale result protection, and the opportunity backfill for all conversations. Telemetry redaction now covers the exact booking reference. Nice. And we even redact. You see that with the telemetry. Really nice. All right. 1 npm npm install. Okay, so nice. The first implementation pass is now in place. Live search results now render as ticket cards. Seat tools render as selectable snapshots, and preference groups. Booking lookup render as owner scoped trip cards. Nice. All right. We've got a little bit of a thing here, which will probably catch out on its own. Yeah. And even then, remember, it's a sub agent that's running right now. We even have conversation gap analysis. We have another agent that's running. The conversation review exposed 2 concrete backend gaps. So I'm implementing now as isolated server only helpers, 1 bounded flexible trip search. Amazing. Exactly what we ran into previously. And 1 owner scoped enriched trip lookup. I'll leave the agent and UI wiring untouched from the other workstream. And you can see, guys, how now I can focus on actually producing a more useful chat experience as opposed to the architecture itself. I don't have to worry about sitting there and being like, okay, how do I get my vector embedding set up the right way and and all this other stuff, as well as having a CMS. I just use Sanity and I implement Sanity Context. The agent handles the rest. It's just so much better to focus and think about things this way. And we've used this, by the way, in a B2B product before, and it's worked incredibly, incredibly well, right? Because in B2B, especially, those are more serious customers. You really don't want to give them hallucinated information. You want to filter that before it even gets to the agent to give a response, right? Look, your agent needs better content. Your agent misses products, returns stale prices, and can't filter a catalog. The problem is how the agent accesses your content. Again, it's a stale context problem, right? So I'd really recommend as well, if you're enjoying this stuff, go ahead, watch a bunch of the videos that are on this Sanity Context page and go and check it out for yourself, because you guys can see for yourself. Look at this, it's really cool. You can change all of this inside of your Sanity Studio, right? So if you can go ahead and set that up however you want. And then where'd it go? You can really customize things as much as you want. And then that way, oops, I'm in the wrong thing here. So glocals /studio. AI context boundary. Yeah. Right. And then of course, anyone come in here and say, if you wanted to go ahead and say, use more emojis, use this, use that, and so forth. Like, you can do it here. Pretty nice. Okay. Telemetry research. But almost actually a very good point now. And let me know, guys, what's been your favorite part or newest kind of learning moment inside of this build so far? I'm very, very curious, right? The function environment also inherited an unused legacy Anthropic key under this exact classifier name. Aerodesk uses the budget capped AI gateway key, so I'm removing the unrelated credential from the new function to keep a secret access least privilege. This does not affect any other Sanity stack or application, right? Again, if it didn't have the access to that key, it would just simply ask me, and I would go and grab it, give it back, and so forth. Right, we have the concierge widgets. Let's see if we can actually get to the usage now. So, oops, what have I done? Localhost, ask concierge. Okay, so I want to say find the flight in 2 days' time, going anywhere for 2 adults, biz class. Right, again, and this is what I would recommend you do. You spend time, really attacking it. Right, what would you like to depart from? Let's just say DXB. I can search for the DSV, but I need destination airport. Again, that you can go ahead and now say, I would screenshot this and say support queries like this. Simple as that, right? But in this case, just to make it simple, London. Okay. Which airport would you like to go through? London Gatwick. Let's just say London Heathrow. And even here, right? So you can do a little improvement here and basically say, for example, watch this. So we can say the first thing is I need destination airport. Upgrade the tools so that way if I didn't give a destination, and in this case I said find anywhere, it would just search for all the flights for that route, as well as in this instance where it gave us the airport selection, it could have just given us 2 buttons for Heathrow and Gatwick. So suggestions, right? Just do it on there. So in this case I should have had like 2 buttons I can then click. Yeah, you see what I mean? So now we can add more interactive widgets and so forth. And let's go ahead and throw that one in the mix as well. And you see how now we can really start to kind of get into the picture a bit more here. And this is what I really, really like. Help me choose seats. Let's just see if that ask me if the guy can come first. Oh, okay, I didn't want to do that. And again, these are pretty terrible like suggestions. You can go ahead and change those as well. But here, look, suggested replies. It actually gave me some suggested ones here. So it did work already for some of the things. Please share the exact flight or flight number. I have 2 adults from your earlier search. Let me know if that's right, plus any preferences. Let's say seats together. Actually, I prioritize. Please provide the exact flight or flight number. I don't have it. I wonder what happens here. So this is what I would edge test everything, right? So look at this. I can look for non-stop. Yeah. Which airport should I search for? London Heathrow. And even here, you see that like the way I'm scrolling out and the kind of UI. I would fix that as well. Would you like this as a one-way trip? Let's say again, one-way round trip. But again, you see how sometimes it's just too many questions. Like get to the actual search, right? Should I search first class or your most recent cameras? let's just say first, right? Let's just say first. And then it finally, and then we hit a snag, right? This is likely due to date validation conflict with one-way itineraries. I don't want to reinvent in this. So again, even here should be human-friendly errors, right? Provide human-friendly errors always. Never expose tech, right? So even like things like this is where I would hard battle test. And this is something which is often overlooked when you're building custom agents. And this is really important, right? Date validation conflict. That should never be said to a customer. Okay, things like that, right? Also, the UI right now is kind of annoying how I keep scrolling down. Also, make the chat height itself. Like we want to fix it to the screen height so that way it stops scrolling down. And we should simply have an overflow scroll for the chat contents with a fixed input bar. And it should behave like a proper responsive chat. Okay, now that's the final little upgrade that I'm going to go ahead and implement. And in fact, what I'm going to do is a little bit of fun. We're going to go to usage and billing. I'm at 87% left. And just to kind of give you a showcase of how fast it could be, right, let's go ahead and switch on fast mode right now. So I'm going to switch on fast mode, and then we can see if this will make a huge difference to finishing off our tasks. Okay, now I don't know if it actually revamps my previous things to be in fast mode or it's only new work, but it'd be cool to see if it does change it. I don't know if it will. I think these ones have already been sent out in, I guess, like normal speed. Anyway, if someone knows the answer to that, I should be very curious. Anyway, behavior also needs to be live in the studio, manage concierge, otherwise they're going to keep asking for a destination email to exist. Sanity Context guide say code will only while the editor problem will define when to use the new discovery and choice tools. And again, the editable studio prompt should really be more like high level. It shouldn't be like the implementation details. It shouldn't be like how to use every single tool. I'd rather have that at the coding level, and then the actual studio kind of content should be a bit more like product team friendly, right? So I would probably change that as well. But again, I'm not going to go through every single gap now, but these are all things that I would probably do, right? Now, for this instance, it's not going to change much unless I had sent off the task. That's something I realized, right? So while this is beginning to wrap up, what I'm going to go ahead and do is showcase the steps that you would need to take this to production, right? So I'm not going to do it because honestly, it's very, very easy to do now. All you need to do is, for example, with the Clerk CLI, you can see here, it has full support for production. So Clerk deploy, ship your auth to production from CLIs. So you set up your domain, auth provided, and DNS records with confidence. Now, little hack, if you didn't know this, which I think is pretty handy for many, many people, is if you buy a domain, many domains out there don't actually have MCPs, right? Or they do, but they're not very good, right? So what I like to do personally, and this is not sponsored by Cloudflare, I've worked with them before, but it's not sponsored by them. I typically like to get, for example, if I buy a domain from GoDaddy, what I'll do is I'll go to Cloudflare and I'll basically make it manage the GoDaddy domain. So I get the Cloudflare benefits of, bot blocking and all that stuff. And then I'll get the CLI authenticated. I think it's the Wrangler CLI. And basically then my agent can handle my DNS records. But again, be careful when you're doing this stuff. But just as a pro tip, if you want to go ahead and get your agent to do everything from end to end, that's what I do. And I think it's pretty damn powerful. So smash the thumbs up button. I just shared a bit of wisdom there. But again, be careful because that means your agent can touch DNS records. So probably at that level, I would have the MCP configured. So it asks for your permission before it does things. But it's a very powerful thing, nevertheless. Okay. Now, once this is done, we can begin to kind of wrap things up. But what I want to do is kind of go over what made all this possible today. So obviously, Clerk was incredibly powerful, right? We use Clerk billing. So let's go over to our dashboard. We go to configure. We can see our different subscriptions. And by the way, this is new, the discounts. So if you did want to add a discount, say, for example, you want to give someone 50% off, you can go ahead and do that right here. Annual plans discount as well, duration. You can go ahead and say even fixed for a number of months, like first 3 months off and so forth. You can give a promo code as well. Give limited total number of redemptions, new subscribers only. Very, very cool, right? So you can do all of these things inside the mix, as well as only for a certain period, like Valentine's Day or something, right? You can see all of your billing over here. So we can actually see all of the active billing plans. So if I click into it, we can see, okay, we have this plan that's active right now, logs, all of the logs and kind of what's happening here. We can see our organization, we're not B2B right now, our users, and this will often show test users if we let the testing happen on its own. And then I believe they moved the what's it called? The logs. So not the logs, but the actual view. Or it might be in production instead. But there was a nice view that I could have done. I'll find out from the team afterwards. Okay. So anyway, behavior. Oh, I probably threw so many things at it now. I've asked it to do so many different like little conversation gap analysis. Make sure you do that. But in this case, like 8 focus test pass. Bounded one way anywhere and round trip searches now work. Nice. Published served airport resolution. London from London DXB resolves to London Heathrow, while unserved London Gatwick returns nothing. Owner scoped itinerary details and enriched seat map there. So nice. You see, you can keep on updating and keep on improving it. Very, very easy now. Right. So let's go ahead and do it again. So find me a flight in the next 2 days to London, business class for 3 people. Let's go ahead and see now. Which airport would you like to depart from? Right. Let's go DXB. And we can see which London airport do you prefer? London Heathrow, Gatwick. So that's probably, yeah, Concierge Widgets is actually still coming now. But let's just say London Heathrow. Eventually that will come up as a widget. Searching live flights. Again, hit a snag. So it's going to fix that one afterwards. This is part of the fix I gave it earlier, the error. Make the chat itself. Well, human error. What thing was so directive in chat? Let's just say fix this error as well. So prime example here, the retries are kind of going a bit nuts, and then we kind of don't get anywhere. So again, another thing to factor in. So these are literally what I'll be doing to really kind of grill out our AI. So I was finding one request into live searches, UI is rendering every field call. And then at this point, it will go ahead and look into things. And in this case, what I think is really nice with this is because it has access to the entire CLI, it can go ahead and actually look at the logs. The cell, once it deploys, it can look at the logs there. You can look at the local running instance. It has access to everything it needs, which I think is absolutely beautiful in how it can solve it all. We've got the clerk AI side, patch to exact regression, max retries. So this fixes the security. So I believe this is the data checked. Oh, regression test. This is the one. So like, you see that? That was actually the issue before, I believe. I don't know if that was actually the reason why, but either way. And then we have the concierge widget. Now, I want to make it very clear. The reason why Codex is very efficient with its token usage is because each of these agents are not sleeping, right? So like these ones, of course, are sleeping now, but like they can, I believe they can get rewoken up. But like every time, say for example, this is the agent that has most work on AI work right now. Rather than this agent having to do a bunch of homework, figure out a bunch of stuff, instead it just messages this agent and it's already got all the relevant context loaded in, so it can just deal with the one step that it needs to. And you see, it's way more efficient than Claude, which basically spins up a crazy workflow, or like where it can maybe have like 100 agents all on the top model, and it burns through agents like madness. So I'm definitely finding Codex is being a lot more token aware, whereas Claude is being a lot more burn through tokens as a business go aware. Which is kind of crazy because you can see it happen in front of you, but I can see that happening a lot at the moment. Let me know what your experience is like, guys. And now, 2 concurrent users holding the same T, exactly 160. Okay, this is from before. Create agent with Sanity Context skill because it's audit specifically about its context. Oh yeah, by the way, there's 2 very good skills actually. We should have used that initially. So we should have used that done when you prompt as well. I would have recommended that when we set up the initial Sanity agent. Now, another thing that I would mention is, what was that? Yeah, the skills. So over here, if we go to Agents here. Dial your context, shape your agent, and create agent with Sanity Context. So these, I would actually use these, right? So I would, if I was you, you can go in any agent you want. You can type in dial your context, for example. And then we can explain, for example, I could be like, dial your context, explain how this and the, what was the other one? Create, shape your agent and shape your agent. Skills help improve things, right? You can simply go ahead, ask it. And now these are very, very good because what they'll do is they'll help us write better context and also agent tooling. And basically it can do a little audit to basically identify, have we set this up the right way? So read the explanation first and they'll go ahead and have a guess at that, right? No, not guess, I mean, they'll go ahead and help us out. So, these two skills sit on top of your Sanity Context MCP. I'll check how the Concierge is wired so the explanation maps to this app. Right, so the problem is, Sanity Context MCP already gets a lot for free. Compressed schema, grok, tutorial, response style rules, and tool descriptions. That is enough for a generic query this dataset assistant. What it does not get, field names that mean nothing other than they sound like. Multi-hop relationships, the schema shows one hop at a time. Data that looks present but is empty, unused. Filter the agent must always apply, and personality refusal rules. Right? The model wastes attention on facts it already has from the schema. And this is exactly what I believe we have already at the moment, right? Dial your context, make data trustworthy, right? So in this case, what you add, why it helps stop queries like tree and body as a slug or here as an image. So in this case, it also adds a grok filter. So shape agent, make the behavior. So in this case, let's just say, based on this, what improvements do you suggest on our code base? Do an audit. Right, and again, I am currently in like grok extra high with the fast mode, I believe one. Is it fast mode? No, go high fast. Let's go into high. I am on high fast. Yeah, no, it's still on fast mode. Yeah, spins up sub agent. Go ahead and do it. And again, this sub agent I believe is in it's grok 4.6. Yeah. And now we can see it's going to go ahead and check out all of our studio instruction sources, see everything that's going on. So it can go ahead and basically do an audit for us. And while these new features are getting added, hopefully we can add that in a little bit in the mix in the end and improve our context. Now again, there is once you start mixing models like this, especially when you're talking about different frontier models, GPT 5.6, Opus 5, Fable 5, of course, you're in the same realm. Grok 4.6, amazingly fast at finding smaller things. Would I say it's on the same exact tier? No, I would say it sits under, but it's a very good model and the usage is incredible for what you get for it. And bear in mind with Cursor, you have two usage plans. You don't only have your main usage. So in this case, look, I've used 62% of other models like GPT 5.6 So, but I've only used 6% of this monthly usage of Cursor, Grok, and Composer. So understand that, yeah, you also get a ton of usage for this. And it's very hard to burn through that amount, right? We have our last one in the mix, value and draw decisions. So Concierge Widgets is still doing its thing. So now uses 7, okay. I'm extending existing search suggestion rather than adding another model driven there. Airport choice tips were derived only from non-airport catalog. Okay. Production has a draft that is byte for byte identical to published v2 prompt. Tightening the migration so it only contains, okay. And also it's very fast. They search 31 files with 21 different searches. So it's very, very quick at kind of like inferring information, searching through things. And I find that it's just way better to use these kind of models at that job as opposed to throwing Fable 5 at searching for files. Like this is what Cursor does really well, by the way, is that even if I had this set on Fable 5, it could spin sub-agents in a cheaper model, which the others obviously don't do, cross-model versus Cursor. Cursor does that. Okay. So, prompt audit, blah, blah, blah. Evaluation draft, okay. Type check and target and green are final. So now it's doing its final checks, which means, yeah, now this is scrollable. Let me find the DXB to London Heathrow. Let's go ahead and see. I can have that. So let's just say 2 days from now, round trip, business class, 2 adults. business cost. For 2 adults, depending on what return date would you like, in 3 days from depart. And now look, searching live flights, no non-stop matches. Would you like to try a different day? Find first date available. Okay, so I believe that is because, again, probably doing a bit of a push here. Yeah. So that is likely a server error from when we were just changing a few things on the back. Flexible trip matches. We have option 1. We have outbound Friday to August. Choose and check seats. So if we were to click this, I choose option 1. So you see how I just pulled that in. We could just have some kind of, oh, that's kind of cool. Okay, so in this case, that you've got some kind of seat selector here. Find window seats. But you see how in those instances, if it's going to give me 2 seats, it can be a bit, oh, that's kind of cool. What it did here, look at that. It gave me seat suggestions, best match. And then obviously you can upgrade these widgets to show the position on the actual side of things. If you could show this on the plane, it'll be better, but let's select these ones. And of course, this response, if maybe we don't have to always show it if we actually do it. Transmit still needs 2 seats. Tell me 2 seats you like. Show me options. Even there, it could have shown me options. So you see, like, it's quite a fun process now. All I'm focusing on is genuinely the user's experience, right? Let's do, for example, on the way back, window, lie flat, side of cabin. Let's do 6K on the way back. Okay, now you selected one. And again, I wouldn't show this typically, you know, the response text. And here, oh, okay. Here we had a bit of a bloat, whatever's going on there. So that would be a bit of a bug I would look into. And then here we have the booking handover. So you have 2 travelers, blah, blah, blah. So review and continue, okay? So read only booking review. Again, how you present that, you can go ahead and do. Open the protected booking review, say in chat, open secure review. So look at that, hand it off to us. And then we can go ahead and see our seats, cool, okay? We can see that these seats are done, but these aren't together, right? So at this point, I can actually come in, go, actually, no, I want to go ahead and do that, right? So obviously I would check the tool call, make sure that was actually fixed, hold the seats, and then we should be through to the next section. Boom, I can go ahead and book it, right? So overall, it's actually doing its job. And I think we've made the point very clear of what we're trying to get to, right? So one last deterministic guard. Right, but I'm trying to showcase what we can effectively do. Now, here we can see the main issue is layering, not missing safely. The kernel bound and clerk are already right for booking concierge. The studio context field is doing the wrong job. Open the review beside chat, shape with our audit. Oops. A canvas is a live view next to a thread. So what's that? Dial shape audit, what's that? Okay, nice. It's giving us an actual canvas of it, right? And then it's giving us the, so, oh, that's cool, right? Dial your context wants a short, shape your agent wants a 200 to 400 word behavior prompt. Error desk stores a 1000 word system prompt. So saying is do way of a shorter, more concise one. Stopped injecting the MCP in initial context blob. It teaches schema. The agent does not have search support content, right? Split the studio field, narrow grok filter to policy FAQ, flight instance, okay? Then share one support type constant across context, search for fixed environment example, rewrite. See, very, very good. I'm gonna say, give me an agent prompt to give to another agent. So if I want to hand this off to another agent now, I can go ahead and get some example information like this. Give this a moment. And now it'll give all the instructions kind of together. And then I'll showcase how I would effectively just pop that in. And we are almost at the end of the build, guys. But what an incredible build. We've actually got a full flight system. And really my whole kind of crazy wow moment when it all clicked for me was the fact that if you really understand what a plane booking system entails, it's so much to consider. You have to consider flight details, you have to consider seats, you have to consider holds, you have to consider the individual plane layout, cabin fare, travel policies, support articles, all of that inside of one chat. Not to mention the vector embeddings, the tools, every single thing that you can imagine, as not even to even think about getting all that right, and then you want to do agent insights and the sentiment analysis. And what if I want to update things on the fly? All of that is things to stack on, right? Look at this. Even here, we've got, look at that. It's huge, nice agent context thing. Boom. Look at this. And then what I would do is I'll pop it inside here, and I would do skills. In fact, I would do shape your agent, and I would do context, dial your context. And I'll say, based on these implement the fixes. Right? So that's what I would effectively go ahead and do. And then this will be correct according to Sanity's guide, as opposed to what we've done here. I would say, make sure this follows the guidelines provided by Sanity's skills. Right? Sanity, British, right? So at that point, you can go ahead and do that. Now, I'm not going to do this, but this is what I would actually go ahead and do to go ahead and fix this, right? And this will get our context way more dialed in, so it's way less bloated, way more streamlined, again, saving us token usage unnecessarily that we could be right now not optimizing, okay? So in this case, that's what I would do to go ahead and improve that. But as for the final steps, I believe, I don't think, I don't think it needs to do all of that now, does it? But at this point, I think we're pretty much good on the demo front. I think we've actually got everything that I kind of wanted to get through. We've got the agent insights at play. Yeah, we've got the content gaps already kicking in, like first class seat map position flights for labels. In this case, we can go ahead and click into it, see the content gap. And what's really nice about this, guys, is this. Yes, look, this gives us a kind of a snapshot of what went on, right? But if I give this to an agent right now and I show it, this is the content gap, it can immediately suggest to me the exact reason or the exact fix for this. And that is the ultimate thing. It just takes work out of the equation. All right? And imagine, this might seem small when we have like, a couple, like in this case, 6 conversations, but imagine you have thousands of users, and this is the difference between them booking flights versus not. That creates a massive difference, okay? So, migration is now fail closed. Okay, so in this case, it's still doing all of its steps. Oh, it's actually almost there, right? And I believe the Ask Concierge, let's have a look. See if it did it now. So, say, departure date can be any date, today ideally, round trip, economy, and 1 traveler. Or 10 date would you like? I'm flexible for any number of days. So even here, you see what I mean? It's asking for a specific thing. So just say 3 days. 3 days. So things like that, again, little gaps. And I'd really go deep into this, like flexible trip matches. And I'd probably present a couple of options, quite honestly. Like imagine in a realistic situation, if we had seeded a bunch of data, which would be realistic, then you'd have loads of flights. So you would have a nice kind of flick through, kind of, showcase me, show me all the flights. In this case, okay, I could be like, all right, is maybe if you got an hour later or 2 hours later, just a little bit later, or maybe departure in the evening, it should support all of those individual things, right? Now, if I was to click this, again, I would hide the response effectively. Maybe don't show this. Checking the seat map twice, let's see. So I found 2 different seats, but again, this is for 2 different users now, right? So that's why it's kind of ran the tool twice. So I'd go ahead and collapse those. Let's just go ahead and say all window seats, aisle seats, or seats. Just do window seats. Finding seats that fit. Okay, window. Choose AA trial. Look at this. This is cool though, right? Choose AA. Window with extra legroom. And that's again the vector embeddings right there, kicking into play. Right? 1 segment still. Please choose 1 economy seat. Choose for me. So it's asking me to do it. I've chosen AA. Okay, fair enough. right? And in this case, Windows seats. All right, so it's gone ahead and just done that. So let's just do, for example, our seats. Oh, it's saying confirmation. So again, the suggested spots there, we can just say confirm. Confirm, let's book. So the suggestions would need a bit of work there. So again, you can really tweak this to get it down, right? Still need your exact return section. Okay, let's do 8C. Try again. Oh, this is probably again. Yep, see, it's running it locally. Yeah, but the point stands, right? I would really go ahead and I'll dial in on this, and probably chances are the big context fix by going through those two sanity skills, it is going to be a huge difference to actually going ahead and getting that entire thing set up the way we would want. And what you could do with this, on top of this, is not only have tests, but I would even set up evals, which is basically where we can test the conversation. So that way you can see, did the AI come up with the right suggestions, right, responses and so forth. And that way you can actually have evaluations. And those will run basically at whatever interval that you want. So that way you can see if something changed and you no longer got the same quality assurance. And this is really the difference between an AI engineer versus someone who's just vibe coding, right? So I think at this point, what I'm going to do is, because it's just doing some extra improvements now, to be fair, right? But let's have a deep dive into what we effectively covered today, and then we can go ahead and wrap things up. So guys, today we built an entire flight booking app, right? We're talking different, we got the from two locations, right? Let me go ahead and just do one of our flights from London to Dubai. We can go ahead and pick on any dates, right? In this case, again, you can customize these however you wish. The main focus was the actual logic behind it. So if I go ahead and try and find a trip here, so in this case, oh, it's loading. That's why it's happening here. Scheduled service is temporarily unavailable, right? Let me connect to select. Let's have a look. Yeah. So shall I only reconnect, refresh to reconnect, say a bookable itinerary. Browser authenticate through clerk. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do is kill our terminal and restart. Interesting. So at this point, schedule time is coming. Reconnect to select. I'll go ahead and just debug what's going on here. These sample flights show the layout only. Refresh bookable itinerary. Oh, I think that was, that was a sample. Oh, I see. Okay. Flight result fallback security. Okay, so it was just based on that search. Okay, so that was because of the dummy ones are just for the layout. So in this case, if we have a itinerary over here, for example, again, remember, I'm not seeding huge amounts of data, right? So again, if this was a realistic thing, you would obviously have crazy amount of flights available, so you wouldn't run into these issues. That was purely because of me doing that, right? Never mind about the bug. Right? Again, the reason why I did that is because it was likely finishing through one final check, right? But quick little run through of what we did today, right? Two things that are absolute stars of today. We have sanity. So over here we have, what was it, sanity context. Let me go ahead and show you properly, right? Sanity context, absolutely incredible, right? You guys see for yourselves, right? From the studio, where we can go ahead and actually have the ops team or our product team go in, change everything, get everything up to scratch, right? It could be e-commerce, it could be flights, it could be whatever the case, right? Enable vector embeddings right alongside our data. And then the Sanity Context MCP endpoint gives our agent literally access to the entire schema, as well as the ability to go ahead and do really, really powerful things such as combining grok filters with semantic queries, right? So that way we can go ahead and say, I want a window seat for under this price, and I want it, I can combine any kind of random option of things, right? And it can go ahead and do that. And then Sanity will go ahead and filter all of that before it even gets to the agent, which means it has the relevant right context before it gives a response, right? So again, setting all of that was absolutely crazy easy. I highly recommend you guys put that inside your project and let me know down below in the comments what your experience has been like. I'm going to be using this a ton in my production builds. You can be sure of that. And as well as that, we had Clerk powering the entire thing, guys. And I'm going to rave about Clerk till the day it goes, because Clerk is just so powerful at this point. I use it so much, guys, in everything I do. And really my favorite thing they did was the CLI, because honestly, it gave my agent so much power now. And it's just completely blown things out of the water in terms of what end-to-end actually means. Now, when it comes to deployment, again, I explained the steps earlier. Connect the right skills, plugins, MCPs. You've already got the CLIs installed. Just ask, prepare for deployment, right? And separate your environments. So your deployment, your development environment from your production environment, it will set up everything for you. And I would highly recommend, when you do a deployment step, use a strong model. Now, if you've enjoyed any of today's video, be sure to go ahead and join our community, Zero to AI Hero. The link is down below in the description. We're going to be doing some incredible coaching inside of there. It's going to be the place to be if you want to get ahead in terms of the AI space. So go ahead, join the waitlist. We're going to be opening doors fairly shortly. And as always, guys, it's your boy Sunny, aka Papa React. Hey, I haven't said that in a while, so it just came off the top of my head. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Series 18. I can't believe that. It's actually crazy. Like, I remember when we started this series, and now it's episode 18. Absolutely nuts. AI space is moving crazy. I'll see you guys later, guys. Sonic Code, I see you. And as always, thank you so much for every single one of you who are tuning in for the live chat. I appreciate every single one of you, and I see you all. Ciao.